Welcome to this week's episode of Campbell and Jones Meet the Monsters, the podcast where we chart the cinematic legacy of the classic monsters. I'm John Campbell. With me, as always, Brendan Jones.
John Campbell.
Yes.
You know, it had to happen. We had to say goodbye to the Phantom.
It does feel like we've been talking about the Phantom for the last 6 months.
Yeah.
And by that, we watched it. We did have a run there. We had a run.
We certainly had a run. And I will say this, similar to the reaction that we had with Phantom of the Mall, Eric's Revenge.
Mm-hmm.
This movie we're talking about this week
Yes.
is a bold reinvention of a classic tale.
Yes.
And is so weird and not great, but weird that, similar to Phantom of the Mall,
Mm-hmm.
I kind of enjoyed watching it.
Yes.
But it's comparable to, because compared to the other stuff we've seen lately, I was just ready for something different.
Agreed. And this is kind of, it's one of those things. It's what we talk about over on my other podcast, The Action Shelf, where if you're not going to be good, be interesting.
Yeah.
Right? And that this movie is interesting at every turn. I do agree with the people who go, you cannot predict where this movie is going next.
That's true.
So say what you will about the quality. It is unpredictable. And I think
it is unpredictable.
I read some of the reviews from the time that it came out, and I think Owen Gleiberman of Entertainment Weekly had it right, where he goes, this is just a schlocky B movie made by the master of schlocky B movies, and on that level, you can have fun with it.
Yeah, it's a schlocky B movie with a surprisingly solid core cast.
I would say, a incredibly good cast, especially by the great Roger Corman standards, and also a rather large budget by Roger Corman standards.
I gotta say that I have a feeling that most of these people signed on. I mean, maybe that is part of the budget, but I have a feeling that some of these stars were like, well, I'll be in a Roger Corman movie. I think that at this point, they did not read the script going, oh God, this is the story I need to tell.
No.
They sat there going, oh my God, Roger Corman is actually filming a movie now instead of just producing.
This was the first movie he'd done in 19 years.
Yeah, so they're basically just going, well, I have to be in a Roger Corman movie.
Yeah, absolutely. And I enjoy Roger Corman movies like I enjoy this movie. I know what they are. But and this is better than Carnosaur or something like that. Something like that. This is better than a lot of the stuff I've seen Corman's name attached to.
I think that is their new pull quote. It's better than ... Carnosaur.
Yeah, I'm just saying, in terms of what I think of, especially around this time, 80s, 90s Corman.
Yeah.
Because, 56, I adore all those, Vincent Price, Boris Karloff, Edgar Allan Poe movies from the 60s.
And he didn't direct those either.
No, he produced those, know. And but those are fun.
That's true.
But this is approaching legitimacy. Let me say that. It's still firmly on the side of schlock B, but it's a little bit better than a lot of his other stuff, and I enjoyed it. It looks nice.
Yes, it didn't look as shitty as, let's say, from around the same era. Well, actually, the things I was about to reference are actually from the 80s. But I was thinking of a lot of canon stuff and a lot of things like that where it's comparable. It's like, this doesn't look terrible. The makeup is odd. But
the
it's
makeup
not
is
badly
more
made.
Yes,
the design is odd.
The design, which is almost, once again, almost like if you can't afford really good makeup, then go with a wild design. Actually, seems it's a similar thing, right? Where you go man, the monster design in this movie is, I won't forget it. Let me say that. There's a certain, it stands out. It's out there. It's unique. It's not just doing a knockoff of the Universal.
No, and what's weird is it's similar to this entire film, and it does make me wonder why this appealed to Roger Corman.
Yeah.
This film is based on a book by Brian K. Aldiss, called Frankenstein Unbound.
And I did look up the book and that guy's career and did a little bit of research into him.
Yeah, the book is divisive even amongst his fans.
Yeah.
I have never read it. I have read Dracula Unbound, which was his sequel.
I read people's reviews and sort of synopsis of both of them, and they are fascinating.
And Dracula Unbound does feature the same time-traveling doctor character. Mm-hmm. But essentially what this guy, who's a primarily science fiction author, he's a very philosophical science fiction author. And with Frankenstein Unbound, before he knew it was going to be a film, obviously, because he wrote the book, and then later on Corman optioned it, is he was doing a meta-textual deconstruction of the original Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. And a lot of the reviews are very snarky about it's essentially fan fiction where the time-traveling doctor is essentially him.
Yeah.
And it's basically a love letter to Mary Shelley because that character, which is his self-insert, gets to sleep with her.
And in this
so
movie
it's like,
as well,
dude,
which is weird.
Wrote a story where I get to do Mary Shelley.
I also read I was looking at Goodreads and just user reviews on there, and somebody said it's almost more of like a literary essay than it is like an enjoyable narrative novel. It is sort of an analysis in some ways.
Yes, yeah, it is. And that's why the concept alone is interesting. But as a story, even people who love the book say it's not really a story. It is that. It's an examination of the thing.
I have a theory about why what in this appealed to them.
Okay.
Here's my theory, and this is what I kept thinking watching the movie is...
They had some props they could use?
Maybe, but that you think about it, this is 1990, so I think it's either this year or the year before the Back to the Future trilogy finishes.
Sure.
And I was thinking this was somebody going, hey, here's an idea, Back to the Future with Frankenstein. And I think that's what they did. I think they just liked that this book was about time travel and monsters, and they were like, great, because this doesn't, I mean, it basically follows the idea of the book but then spins off in its own direction quite a bit.
The weird take of it, and actually one of the faults, if the story was a scientist from the modern day or slight near future goes back to the time of Dr. Frankenstein,
right,
and meets him and is there for the famous experiment and all that stuff. That's interesting. It's weird. And I don't, that's interesting. What this thing goes farther, just like the book, is that it's this metatextual thing where Mary Shelley is there along with Byron and her husband, Percy Bysshe Shelley.
My big suggestion would be cut all that from the movie version.
Yeah, exactly. The same thing here, because I'm sitting there going, you're dividing your focus too much. And also, if your point, which in the book it definitely was, to highlight Mary Shelley's genius, which she was genius and talented and such a forward-thinking
and they made
woman.
a movie. They made a biopic about her. If you want to see that, go watch that.
Yeah. And so, in other words, but the thing is, if that was your focus, then by having the Frankenstein story happening concurrently, you've actually taken away from her genius, because then it looks like she just did reportage.
Yes, excellent point.
Because it's just sort of, and she in this thing too, who's presented and played by the lovely Bridget Fonda.
Yeah, who always welcome on screen as far as I'm
always
concerned,
welcome, even when she's doing a slightly. I mean, she's doing some kind of accent.
What is anyone doing here? I mean, the people who really get lost, I feel like, are your Shelley and Byron characters and stuff like that.
Yeah,
like,
that's where I was saying the stunt casting, I think, is. I was talking to you about that. It's like on paper, getting Jason Patric to play, Lord Byron sounds great, and then the stunt casting of Michael Hutchence. That's the thing I'd forgotten about this movie. Michael Hutchence of NXS, who was trying to launch himself as an actor and who certainly was very handsome.
I was going to say, and definitely had the look.
And was in the running for Jim Morrison for The Doors, and it was between him and Val Kilmer.
I think they made the right choice.
Well, I mean, Val Kilmer's amazing. But but Michael Hutchence was apparently extremely devastated he didn't get that.
I'm sure could have done the Morrison music side of it, but could he have really? Was he an actor really?
Well, in this, he's trying, and luckily there's not a lot of him. He comes off as well as Jason Patric, and neither comes off that well.
No,
because they seem to be doing like almost SNL skit parody of like,
yes,
I am a romantic poet of my era.
When you first get to Patrick in this movie and he opened his mouth, I went, oh boy. I know. He's going for it, but yeah.
Well, I think he realized he was on shaky acting ground, because you'll notice that he's giving it all in expression and movement, but he's actually underplaying the way he's speaking, because I think he's not confident with this accent he's doing, because he actually kind of almost throws a lot of his lines away.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is weird.
As he should be. Patrick reads American, and he also reads modern to me. Like,
yeah,
I like Jason Patrick. I think he's a good actor. I think he's a very good actor, and
that's what I'm saying. On paper, the casting of those two characters is like, fuck yeah, that's a great choice.
Yeah. And we, of course, I mean, refer back to our Lost Boys episode where we praised him. He's very good in that. But this is a weird use of him.
It is, as we've already said, it's a weird combo where because you're dealing with a weird sci-fi thing, so we have to be introduced to that character first. Then we're thrust into the Frankenstein story, which we're all familiar with. And so you're like, ooh, Raul Julia, absolutely great. Julia. I've never. Is it Julia or Julia?
I've heard it both ways. I say Raul Julia, but I feel like that's what I heard when I was young. I don't know.
Well, we all love him, so that's great.
And that was what I was excited about. I go, ooh, Raul Julia is Dr. Frankenstein. Yes, I'm going. This must be some kind of unsung gem, because that guy's amazing.
Because you're serving all of it. Because you're serving 3 plots.
He's not
Shelley
in it
and
that
friends.
Much. That was the biggest disappointment to me. I go, where's Raul Julia as Dr. Frankenstein? And he's giving you all the Raul Julia you want in this thing.
Yeah. But he doesn't have much to do because they don't have the time to serve all these stories. So
it's an 86-minute movie.
Yeah, you have the time traveler adapting to everything pretty well, but that makes sense because he's aware of time slips and whatever.
My God, though, is this the most casual time travel I've ever seen in any movie?
We need to say this right off the bat. We haven't even talked about the poster yet, but I'll say this right off the bat. This is without a doubt the laziest, most reckless time traveler I've ever seen.
Unquestionably. There are so many
times
this
guy doesn't fucking care about messing up the time frame. He's like, you know what? I'm going to drive my futuristic car around 1817.
I'm going to show Mary Shelley her novel before she's written it. I'm going to try to stop an execution from happening, thereby changing things.
The most irresponsible time traveler I've ever seen.
Goddamn psychopath. And I will say a lot of this movie is carried on the very wild John Hurt performance.
Which is interesting just because, I mean, I've seen him do shades of something like this before, but him as quasi, I mean, he's not action hero, but he is our focus point. And so he's just like, he's just weirdly cavalier. It's like he goes, holy shit, I'm in Frankenstein times. Hello, Dr. Frankenstein, look at my digital watch. Hello, Mary Shelley, God, you're hot. I so want to get a piece of that. Hello, Lord Byron.
He's just going, I know what this is, I know what that is. Boom, yes, all right.
It's nuts. All right, but we should start the way we normally start.
Let's start talking about this poster, which I actually think is pretty good.
I do like the poster. I always have. However, I like it as like a visual for Frankenstein. I didn't like it when in the movie it's actually something like the monster actually does have a stitched together eye. There are a couple of makeup choices where I'm like, I know that sounds cool, but that just doesn't make any sense. Why would they have to stitch together multiple eyes into one eye?
Just put an eye in there.
The monster's hands. Now, that's not on the poster, but traditionally the monster, if he has different hands, they were severed at the wrist, and he has hands sewed on to the
classic
forearm.
That's Karloff and Lee.
But in this, he has half like down the line of the hand. So like the thumb and the finger are like weird monster thumb and finger, and the other is normal hand. And you're like, what were you doing, Dr. Frankenstein?
This Dr. Frankenstein has no interest in like creating a human aesthetic. He is designing a monster, clearly. Like,
yeah. But
so we have this stitched together eye, which is 3 different colors forming the eye, and it's got the stitches. It's very disturbing and grabbing imagery, you know.
Yeah,
really,
I do like
this. Would stop me in a movie theater lobby and go, "Ooh, yeah, that's interesting."
And it is very well illustrated. They got someone who again probably does dust jackets.
It's a perfect example of a lot of things we like in posters, which is it's subtle, it's minimalist, but it's very effective.
Yeah, and also it hasn't cheated you of your first glimpse of the monster. Mm-hmm. You're not getting the makeup, and maybe that was by choice, but it's also just evocative. That's the whole thing.
It is quite possible they had not decided on the makeup when they made this poster. I know how these movies are put together.
That's true. Maybe not.
I mean, because that's a real Cannon or Corman thing, is to make the poster and then raise the money.
Oh, now I'm reminded of why I brought up the book so early, is that the cover, the classic cover of Frankenstein Unbound,
yes,
which is supposed to be like a stylized version of the monster's face of classic Frankenstein monster, and it's not like Karloff, actually does kind of look like the makeup in this movie. And I think that weirdly Corman was like, do something that's like a riff on this.
I'm looking at it right now. Yes. Okay.
Because it's all like got the face being stretched back, kind of the big chin and all that stuff, and I'm like,
it looks like
maybe they did that.
Yeah, it looks like a mask or almost something like. Here's the cover where it just blatantly. Here's some paperback cover where they just blatantly used a drawing of Karloff.
Well, of course, yeah. There you go.
There you go. And then of course here's the movie cover, right? That has
a
weird
the stitched eye.
No, the movie cover is It's the bride creature at the end, and she's got her arms wrapped around the monster creature, and they're staring off in the distance, kind of like, oh, we're doomed. We're a doomed romance.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a take.
Very, very interesting. It's like a promotional shot from the movie.
Well, you just spoiled that we get a bride. Thanks.
Well,
thanks, John.
Because in 85 minutes, this movie is going to do every Frankenstein thing you can think of all at once.
Yes, but without giving any of them justice, because they have to keep the fucking thing moving.
That's my problem with this. Normally, this is one of the rare things where I'm like, maybe this could have slowed down. And I'm the guy who's always accusing these things of being too slow and stuff like that. But this one needed to calm down, or
it needed to calm down, or as we said, carve away. I mean, it's not that it's unnecessary, but it really does hurt
Shelley
the story.
Stuff doesn't have any impact on the story. Really, it's kind of just if anything, I said all it stands to do is damage Mary Shelley's legacy.
I can only say that the overall gist of this, which is just, and they hit the nail on the head so many times on it. It's just like, oh yeah, Frankenstein was a man who, all in the name of science, pushed things beyond nature, and it's the typical warning of Frankenstein. And we're still doing it. The whole point of the movie is like, even in the future, a scientist blind to his own ambition has created a monster. Only this monster has disturbed the space-time continuum.
On paper, that's a cool idea. It's just the thing keeps stating it over and over.
Yep, over. And
oh
over
my
and
God,
over.
The last line of the movie is so funny too. I laughed pretty hard at that.
But that's not my favorite. I have a favorite.
There's a couple lines I wrote down. So first off, the one we're looking at has a poll quote from David Sheehan of KNBC TV Los Angeles, who called this a monster movie for the thinking person.
Yeah, but not thinking too hard. I mean, because everything is spoon-fed to you. It is so, like, any point it's trying to make is stated, and that's
feel
not
like
good filmmaking.
They definitely took that poll quote because that's what they want them. They're like, no, we're a higher-minded monster movie.
This was, I think, honestly, Roger Corman thought, I mean, yes, in his brain, which was always commercial, you're right. He probably just said, time travel's hot now, and I could do a classic monster and work some, time travel
but
in.
He
Great.
often had messages in his movies. He often did that.
Yeah, but the fact that he is also directing for the first time in 19 years, he wanted this to be like his prestige coming back thing.
Well, this
you're like,
oh,
wow.
This had an estimated budget of 11.5. That's big for a Corman
very big
film.
for Corman.
Corman was famous for a long time for never making a movie that cost more than $1 million. That was always like his thing. But this one also got a 20th Century Fox distribution, so this is a bigger movie, and this is not.
When the 20th Century Fox logo came up at the beginning, I was like, "What?"
Yeah, but because he obviously made this in conjunction with other bigger groups, because this is not. It's not New World Pictures. First off,
no, it's not.
So I don't think this is a. He is a producer on it, but I don't know if this originated in his company. It seems like this. I mean, he is credited as one of the co-writers on it. Along with FX Feeney. What a great name, man. Making his screenwriting debut, according to his.
Woo.
Yeah, and he wrote one other movie called The Big Brass Ring.
Oh,
with William Hurt and Nigel Hawthorne.
Yeah, I didn't see it, but that actually does ring a bell.
Yeah, I'm looking at this going like, I've seen this video box art somewhere at a Blockbuster. and
that's a box off. I mean, a Blockbuster walk by.
Yeah, and going like, that looks. I like William Hurt, but that looks boring. As I reach for Frankenstein Unbound, probably. Let's be honest here. Also, uncredited rewrites to RoboCop screenwriter Ed Neumeyer.
Oh, interesting. Well, he just wrote the parts where a hand goes into a chest.
Yes, which
happens 18 times.
Having seen the films, but famous for writing RoboCop and Starship Troopers, that's probably true.
Starship Troopers, man. That talk about if I were if I were just a junkie for the works, I would probably sit there going, how dare they do that to a great novel? But Philip K. Dick is notoriously, how do you adapt him to film? Starship Troopers, I think,
actually, Brendan, I have to step in here. Robert A. Heinlein is
Starship Troopers. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. Well, Heinlein also. Heinlein Stranger in a Strange Land is a classic and a great novel, but
been adapted even less, so I think that speaks to how hard it is.
Yeah, but you're absolutely right. But with Starship Troopers, I would argue, and I do understand the cult of authors where people are going, "Oh no, don't touch it." It's similar to Shining. It's like, what you got is amazing. You just have to separate yourself from the source material, says the guy who never separates himself from the source material.
But I agree about Starship Troopers. It is very much Paul Verhoeven with the writers of RoboCop making, because it feels like RoboCop. And I love RoboCop.
Because it has that satire thing and I love
Starship Troopers.
Elevates RoboCop and Starship Troopers from being just stock sci-fi.
Well, and both of those are movies that I adore. And have since I was a kid, but now appreciate them even more than when I was a kid. I did look at them on surface level and go, these are badass, bloody action movies.
Right.
And now still enjoy the badass action of them, but go like, wow, these are really smart scripts, actually. These are very well done and very clever and kind of sneaky in there,
Do you want to know more?
Yeah.
The only good bug is a dead bug.
Yeah. It's great stuff like that, man. Go watch Starship Troopers. You don't need to watch Frankenstein Unbound. Go watch Starship Troopers.
Yeah, no, though, again, I'm glad I did, just to, I need to 100%. Cleanse the palate.
Here's the thing,
and the palate.
Like I said, you knew a little bit more about it than I did. You had said, it's a sci-fi kind of take, and I went, all right, I did not expect to start in Los Angeles, 2031. I mean, very Terminator-y kind of opening with that thing. I'm going like, all right, and I kind of surrendered to them. I went, all right, take me away.
And
take it away,
I'll say this: the I believe, I might be wrong, but I believe the original novel, which was written in the 70s, I believe its future world was 2020.
I think that's correct. Actually, I was looking at that.
I think it's great that in 1990 you had Corman going, "We got to push it back a little."
My favorite thing I saw, I was looking at. I do like that it's still the future. I do like when I watch a future movie and it's still the future. I I did like that. Yes, he wrote Frankenstein Unbound in the 70s, and then he wrote Dracula Unbound the year this movie came out.
Yes.
And apparently he did approach Corman to do that, and Corman was like, "Are you kidding me? This is way too expensive."
Yeah, and I think also,
but I love that he's just. Oh no, this did not do
what he thought we would do.
But I like that the guy was like, "Oh, great, wait, I made money off of that. Let me write another novel. I'll write a sequel to that just so they can turn it into a movie."
Yeah,
I'm gonna take the Lost World route.
I do think that was like a writer who has a very fervent following, but he was never one of the big names.
No, it's so interesting.
So he probably was sitting there going, "Oh, I'm making money again."
Yeah.
Time for a sequel.
I did see a lot of the reviews called him a master of science fiction. I'm going, I've never heard of this guy.
Well, again, he is liked, but his stuff is very pretentiously heady.
Because once again, we mentioned Heinlein, Philip K. Dick, Arthur C. Clarke. A lot of these guys, you need a middle initial. But these are the guys I think of when I think of the masters of science fiction. Sort of like Asimov, right? Like not Adelais. You got me.
You mean Aldous?
Aldous is Aldous. Yeah. All right. Now, Aldous. Yeah. Whatever.
That's okay. Yeah. It's gonna be all right.
Okay. The only other like movie from his is Spielberg's AI is credited to being based on one of his short stories, but I don't think it really actually is, because that primarily came from a Kubrick vision. It may have started as that, but I know that was a lot of Spielberg taking Kubrick's ideas and making that movie, and
then awkwardly making it Spielbergy. Making it tonally a mess, that movie, but it's still an interesting watch.
It is. I remember being more intrigued than like enjoying it when I haven't seen it since it was in theaters.
Well, here's my hot take that's been absolutely cooled over the many decades since the movie. Yeah. Basically, that movie should have ended with him on the bottom of the ocean saying, "Help me," or "Talk to me, Blue Fairy. I believe in you, Blue Fairy." Where it just zooms out and he's just at the bottom of the ocean. Mm-hmm. It should have ended on that bleak note. The whole thing where it jumps ahead 2 centuries to alien spiritual things, giving him one last night of happiness and all that. I'm like, that's a Spielberg ending. I bet Kubrick was like, no, leave him at the bottom of the ocean and he's going to be there till his battery runs out and he dies. That's the way the movie should have ended. The extra 20 minutes was very much Spielberg being Spielberg.
Yeah, I mean Spielberg.
All right.
Yeah.
So that's my take.
Well, now we'll talk about Corman being Corman. So yes.
Yeah, let's do it.
We actually start with John Hurt wandering a wintry setting in the snow, which I'm going, okay, because initially I'm going, this seems very classic beginning of Frankenstein. We're out in the snow. Yep. John Hurt's narrating about I'm sure this shit comes from the book or something. The nature of science and monsters and destructions and whatever. But yes, then we cut to 2031. We're inside of a lab as he's about to demonstrate his new invention, the particle beam.
Yeah. Okay. I'm totally on board with all the jibber jabber.
So I was looking at the book. None of this is in the book. The time slips. Really? The time slips are just occurring. He didn't create them in the book, so this is all Corman. The time slips are almost like a natural phenomenon.
Which is that does kind of steal the parallel of him being another Frankenstein who has created a monster. That's weird. He's definitely the guy behind this project, even though it's the project is funded by the military. It turns out the military doesn't want his particle beam weapon because it is, as an after effect, opening rifts in time. And I would say that's a pretty big thing.
And once again, this fucking nonchalant jackass is just going, oh yes, a brief side effect of time slips. Nothing we can't deal with.
But I have to say this, okay, I'm all right with the sci-fi opening. I'm all right with this as the concept. But man, here's where you're in a Roger Corman movie. Mm-hmm. Future Lab is the goofiest, cheapest knockoff thing you can imagine. And these jumpsuits everyone's wearing, these were rejected and lost in space. They said, no, thank you. These look too cheesy. These are jumpsuits with these tight girdle parts on them. And I'm just like, God, they're shiny, also shiny jumpsuits. That equals the future. So this is hard for me to swallow, even with John Hurt being John Hurt. And also John Hurt being surrounded by non-actors.
Yeah.
Can you imagine being an actor of his quality and doing an entire 5-minute scene with the cheapest people Corman could find?
I mean, because here's the the saving grace of this movie is the cast. Because I've seen other Corman movies, of course, where everyone are these lab workers. Like, every part is played by that.
Yes.
But I love John Hurt. Like, he was one of the greats, obviously. There's no question about it. And he's just so compelling. He's so instantly compelling to watch on screen that he's going to carry...
You'll follow him through all this jibber-jabber. 100%. And you'll follow him while people are going, but Dr. Buchanan, aren't you afraid that using your particle beam will open another time slip? Do you think
there's any part of him, though, walking around this lab going, I was an alien?
I know. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, like that spaceship set and stuff like that. And he's just going, oh Christ.
He has to act opposite these people. Like, he has to react to what he's given, and what they're giving him should be either urgent or dooming or something like that. And he's playing it like, oh, don't worry about it. I'm totally on top of it, and he's doing good John Hurt work. But he's not getting anything from the people around him. He's not getting anything.
The man was never not committed. No question about that.
Oh, my God. And is he one of the best things about Hellboy? Yes.
Oh, God. I mean, you talk about, once again...
Professor Broom?
Oh! Selling the believability of a heightened kind of world. Oh, my God. We called him Hellboy. You know, you're just going like, it's so good. I mean,
you're also like, who could sell that kind of a line? Oh, John Hurt.
And the War Doctor, man. He's the fucking War Doctor, and he was amazing.
All right, so what we've established is, and he's not at fault for this movie.
Far from it.
He does fine.
In fact, you can almost, like a lot of good actors, you can feel him trying to ground anything in emotion, and, you know, like...
Well, he's doing both. He's trying to ground it in an emotional reality, but he's also trying to elevate this material where this isn't embarrassing writing, but it is just so on the nose from stop to stop that there's no breathing room and there's no real person in it, because they have to talk in these like, I'm Dr. Frankenstein. Well, it's a pleasure to meet you. What is that watch you're wearing?
I mean, you know, all this it kind of gets to all this stuff, but I'm just going, if you have John Hurt and Raul Julia, just let them talk. That's going to be as exciting as anything you could put on screen. Just to watch those two go toe to toe. Two of the greats, man. Like, two really compelling actors who don't need things around them to sell stuff. It's so interesting that the next year, Julia will do Addams Family, where, he just fits so perfectly in that fully realized world, you know? When you get a Sonnenfeld...
That's perfection in casting is what that is.
It is. I mean, my God, I grew up... Once again, you talk about being like the perfect age for something. I was the perfect age for those movies, and I still have such love for those films. And him as Gomez. I mean, so much so that I love John Astin, but it's one of those things where I'm like, he's not really Gomez, though. Like, to me...
Oh, well, that's you getting it in reverse order.
Yeah, that's in reverse order, but because once I'd seen Raul Julia, I'm like, oh my God, this guy...
Raul Julia benefited from being Raul Julia, but he also benefited from that was much better written than any of the episodes of the show.
I think that's another part of it. And Sonnenfeld,
because John Astin is a magnetic,
absolutely delightful, but also of course the perfect marriage of Sonnenfeld to that material. My God,
yes,
he was exactly the right guy. I love those.
You know what we're not talking about?
Yeah, no, I know. I just want to bring that up because once again, you talk about going from this to what a fully realized. Broad, beautiful world and set design and everything that is.
Another thing I do love is that all these actors, including Bridget Fonda, Jason Patrick, all of them bounced back immediately from this.
This damaged no one's
None
career.
of them took any hits. Even Michael Hutchence, he just went back to being an NXS and being a rock star.
Yeah.
And that ain't too shabby.
You know I want to talk about, was it Nick Brimble, who plays the monster? Because I want to talk about what he's in after this, which is another favorite of mine. So anyway, so he's talking about the side effects, and then of course they look outside to this ominous, what I called the science cloud, throughout the movie, this tear in reality that's forming in the sky. And everybody's
I kept calling it oh shit, what was it called? The Nexus? Is that what it was in Star Trek?
Star Trek Generations. Yeah, the Nexus. Yeah.
Because it does look like that. It's a ribbon of cloud that's lit up with like
ribbon,
pink lightning and stuff. It's actually very Stranger Things-ish.
It is, yeah. Then all you want to do is get back to the Nexus.
Yeah.
I do enjoy that movie, and that's a great villain performance from Malcolm McDowell. Time is the file in which we bend. This movie could have used some McDowell. I like that energy.
Pretty much everything could.
Yeah, but talk about his energy would fit this movie very well.
It's true.
But he already did the time travel thing in a much better time travel movie, Time After Time.
Oh, one of my favorites, which of course we wouldn't be covering on this show, but Time After Time is just
easily one of my
chef's
favorites.
Kiss.
One of my
David Warner and Malcolm, you can't beat.
You can't.
And then you're going to throw in a Mary Steenburgen?
Mary Steenburgen.
What, are you kidding me?
Written and directed by the great Nicholas Meyer. That movie, that's one of my favorite time travel movies by far.
Mine too. And of course you can poke a million holes in it, but it doesn't matter. I love every bit of it.
I love that movie.
Okay. All right.
You want to talk about, God, in a movie full of weird stuff, I think the weirdest scene is these kids burying their bike on John Hurt's property.
Okay, well, all right. So here's the thing in the flow is he has left the lab where he didn't sell his particle beam to the military. Yeah. So he goes home and
I love that he shoots the beam, and clearly he's created time travel, but he's like, well, isn't that what you want? The enemy goes away. Who knows where they go or when? It doesn't really matter.
Yes, the particle beam is a weapon, but what it does is he goes, the thing is that your enemy is just dissolved and everything else around it's totally fine. Isn't that what you want? And they're like, yeah, but isn't it true that you're basically not destroying that thing? You're just sending it back through time or sending it somewhere in time. He goes, yeah, but
it's not. His whole attitude is, it's not here.
It's not here. Nothing to worry about. So then he drives home in his fancy future car.
This car is such a prominent character in this movie.
All right, I'm not giving this movie more credit than it deserves, but I will say I do like seeing something from the 1990s, and I'm going, yeah, this is obvious science fiction, but it does have all these things we have now. Mm-hmm. It has an AI that he talks to.
Oh, it's very, it certainly gave me that Knight Rider vibe.
Yes, and it can drive him if it wants. Like, if he wants, it'll drive him, but he's like, no, let me manually drive.
Still waiting for that.
It's an onboard computer that can look things up on the internet, basically like an internet thing.
And print out a whole novel instantly.
Yeah, it can. It has a built-in printer. He goes, I need a hard copy of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein.
I love that it comes out as one document, not page by page. It just goes, ka-thunk, and there's how does it do that?
So this basically has internet, and it has GPS, and it has AI, and it auto-drives. And I'm like, this is prescient.
Yes.
And so he gets back to his.
And by
home,
the way,
this
car is it was the 1988 Ital design Aztec concept car is what they're driving around in this movie.
Yeah, it actually looks like a future vehicle, but the thing is that like many of them, you're sitting there going, all the onboard stuff, because he's also watching TV news report while he's driving, all this stuff.
Oh yeah,
all that's fine. The outside of it is so self-consciously futuristic because it literally has like the Batmobile pods. It's not like you can reach across and touch the person next to you. You're both in like encapsulated pods inside the car.
I'm looking at the real car. I just Googled it. This is exactly what it looks like, and it's cool as hell, man.
I mean, it does look cool, but it also, you sit there going, no, that's them trying to make a future-looking car.
This is all real. It's not a prop, but yeah, somebody.
No, a lot of concept cars that never get made. That's always what it is. They always look like the Jetsons or something like that, and you're like, that's a cool concept car. Yeah, one was made. It never became an actual going car.
Here's a whole article about it. What happened to it?
Good.
What happened to it is exactly what you're talking about, which is why would anyone want this? And the doors open and the canopy goes up on the pod part of it. It's very it is totally form over function.
So when this is Dr. John Buchanan is character played
the American scientist, isn't he?
Oh, that is so weird later, that reveal. He goes, Jason... Are you British? You're British. He's like, I'm what you might call, what do you say, modern American or something? Modern American.
My other favorite line is, I believe it's Jason Patrick who says, you're obviously not English. Says Jason Patrick to John Hurt.
I know.
Hilarious.
I know. So
hello, sir. Well, you're obviously not English. No, quite American. Yes, because John Hurt is not doing an American. He's just being John Hurt.
He's just being John Hurt, and I'm sure that Corman's like, "Don't worry about it."
Yeah.
But he gets back to his fancy mansion, and the car picks up. He goes. The car says to him, "I'm picking up life signs. There are people on your grounds. Should I alert security?" And he goes, "No, that's just the local kids."
Okay.
And then he drives up.
This is the first though of throughout the whole movie that he continues to call the car baby. Don't worry, baby. Those are just some of the local kids. I
wanted more of that.
Yeah, him and the car are my favorite relationship in the movie. Don't worry, baby.
So he gets out of the car, and they are like preteens, and they are on his grounds, and they have dug a hole in the lawn, and they are doing a mock religious ceremony, to bury a bicycle.
Very strange, because I did like, well, what are your bury? I just love the idea too of we're all going, oh, what are you crazy kids bury?
Yeah, he's playing along. He's like, oh, what is it today? What are you up to? And they're like, we're burying this. He goes, oh, I'm sorry it passed away. And she goes, that's okay. It's because we got a new one. And she points to a futuristic bike.
Oh my God. It's just a bicycle, but the spokes have been covered by silver circles, right? Like
yes,
that's it.
Yes.
It's just, it's basically a bike with hubcaps. Like, okay.
Yeah, got a new bike. And so they're burying the old one. And all this doesn't make any sense. Unless you're saying, is this symbolic? It's like the old is being buried for the new. All right, okay.
Yeah,
that's on the nose too. But they do this weird thing, like they're dressed in robes, and they start saying just old fancy sayings like, one of them is funicula, and the other, then the kid goes, que sera, as they're burying the bike. And I'm just like, what the fuck is this about?
That actually reads as kind of cute real kids to me, like they're just saying things they think sound prophetic and religious in some way, or like.
But in case they don't give you too much time to ponder it, because oh God, a time slip happens.
A time slip happens because the clouds part, and out of it rides Attila the Hun, Genghis Khan. I don't know who this is. Well,
some sort of Mongol warrior on horseback. And this is what
this is where once again I'm going, what the okay, movie. Okay,
this
movie.
This is what I fucking love about it, all right? Because it's not an entire mass out of a war.
Oh no.
It's one rider who's got a spear at the ready.
Yeah.
And it's not like he's just on the ground. The time portal is in the air, so it's weirdly like he's riding out of the sky, then onto the ground. And this Mongol warrior, who is now in 2138 or 2038 or whatever it is, he doesn't stop there and fall off his horse in shock, amazement, or whatever, going, the gods have transport. No, he's like, well, I guess I was meant to throw a spear at this strange person. So he rides his horse at John Hurt, who's trying to protect one of the kids, and he throws a spear at John Hurt, and for some reason, the time slip claims the spear before it hits John Hurt.
Right. And then John Hurt falls unconscious and awakens with his car in an empty field.
Yeah, the time slip has not only taken the Mongol warrior back to wherever he's supposed to go, I guess. It has grabbed John Hurt, not the kid he was protecting, but baby the car.
Yeah.
And deposited the field.
Because we got to get as much use out of this car as we can. My God, the car is...
Well, this is where I'm reminded of Back to the Future, because he immediately, before he even figures out he's back in time, he's like, I should probably hide my car.
That was the exact moment I thought about the Back to the Future connection as well. It was
because he's moving bundles of sticks out of the way of like a sheep pen or something somewhere, and he parks his car in there,
which is hilarious because then he's just casually driving it around in the past.
I know, but for now he decides he needs to hide it. And he's like,
thought that was funny,
baby, well, this is how he finds out he's back in time. He's like, baby, connect to this satellite and tell me where I am. It's like, I can't connect to a satellite. Well, why don't you turn on the TV or something? Let me get a local report. There's no TV around. He goes, what about radio? There's no radio? He's like, shit, I must be way back in time.
Dear God. But instead, what does he do? He goes, I'll just walk into town.
Yeah, he's like, you stay here, baby. I'm going to just go walk. I'll find some place.
I mean, once again, he just barrels around the 1800s like he owns the place, man.
He's very unconcerned with being back in time. He's never been in a time slip. Time travel is not something that, it's an accidental thing, so it's not something people have explored either.
It's one of those things where I go, like, I will give them that because he invented this device and understands what a time slip is, he's intellectually aware of what's happened. That doesn't mean you just like, well, fuck it, it's the 1800s then, a boobity doo, I'm walking around.
That is how he adapts to it. And the biggest problem I'm going to have with this, and by the way, John, are you enjoying that special flavor of Coca-Cola?
Oh, yes, Coca-Cola Starlight.
Yeah,
it's
it's kind of cinnamony.
Yeah, it gives me a graham cracker kind of vibe.
A little bit?
Yeah, I like it. I really enjoy the Starlight. Not a sponsor.
It's all right.
Not a sponsor. It's a nice summer flavor.
That is a drink from the future.
The future. Maybe 2031?
You received that through a time slip, didn't you?
I did, yes. I'm the only one that has it. It hasn't come out yet. Yeah.
So anyway,
he's just like, boom, 1800s, it's time to walk. Here I go. Strutting into town. I'm John Hurt.
And he does. He struts into a town, and it's a handsome backlot somewhere, and they've hired some extras.
Yes, actually, I can tell you where. I have the film. I have the filming locations here. This movie was shot on location in Lombardia, Italy.
Nice.
Not bad. That's got to be an appeal too. How do you get these people? How about a paid trip to Italy? Doesn't hurt anybody either.
Now, he is actually in Geneva, I believe, which is where the writing of Frankenstein took place, or that famous...
But it is not where the book is set.
I know. It's not where the book is set, but somehow in this world, Frankenstein is happening there.
Well, that's here's the other crazy thing, and this is because this brings us to the next scene where he's going to meet Frankenstein in this bar. Frankenstein is a fictional story, and John Hurt's just going to roll with the fact that it's real and act like we've always known it was real.
That is just one of the many problems I have with it. But yes, he does. He just rolls with it, and he also seems to be able to speak whatever language they'd be speaking there. That's what really bugs me.
Well,
now, it's true.
Let's talk. We just talked about Dr. Frankenstein is also a Puerto Rican man. There's a lot of things that are pretty wild here.
Here's what I would believe, because, Shelley and so forth, they were British, they were on vacation, and I'm sure that either they were speaking rudimentary German to the people of Lake Geneva or wherever they were, or it's quite possible some of those locals were speaking rudimentary English to help the tourists out.
Everybody is here.
But here, he's able to understand everybody. They're able to understand him.
There's not a single character. You would think they would at least do it once where he wouldn't understand somebody. Nope.
Yeah, you would think that he would walk in saying, pardon me, and they would go, Sprachen Sie Deutsch? And he would go, oh, no, sorry. And then they go, oh, okay, I'll speak in English to you.
He's already got future tech. Just have him pop something in his ear. Have
him have a universal translator.
Because it's a simple thing. Like in Guardians of the Galaxy, they just mention that Peter Quill has an implant that makes him be able to, boom, there you go. It's a one and done.
You move on. It's just like Star Trek. You deal with it, you move on.
Yeah. Universal translator. There you go. It's just an accepted thing, and we're going.
But he walks in. Everyone looks at him because he's dressed strangely, and by this time, he only wears that the shiny jumpsuit in the lab.
Yeah,
he's in perfectly normal coat, t-shirt, jeans, not jeans, but slacks.
Yeah, he's got a nice fashionable blazer, and yes, a white t-shirt, and kind of baggy slacks. I'm looking at a picture of it.
That's very late 80s, early 90s. Baggy slacks.
Yeah.
Baggy jeans, baggy slacks.
Yeah.
But he walks in, and so everyone's looking at him like, you're a weirdo. And he just gets a beer, and he asks if they have any food, and they go, "Oh, we could get you a fish dinner for this much money." He goes, "Oh, that sounds great." And then he opens up his wallet, which is full of credit cards, and goes, "Wait a minute, I'm back in the past."
Yeah. So he goes, "How much for this pocket watch? Because you'll also buy shit here at this restaurant."
Yeah. And they're like, "Oh, I'll give you 50 Deutschmarks or whatever, whatever." And he goes, "And the fish dinner?" He goes, "You got it."
You scam. Immediately, everybody loves John Hurt, too. Like, I don't understand.
I know. And then he just chooses, I guess because he's drawn to a very striking man, he just chooses to sit down at a particular table.
Yeah, we're all gonna sit down with Raul Julia.
But I think primarily they're trying to indicate he's trying to read the paper.
Yes, this is where he sees the date, and I think I did write it down. What year it's?
Isn't it 1817?
It is 1817 indeed.
And it tells where he is.
Yeah.
Maybe it's Luxembourg. I don't know. I thought it was Lake Geneva.
It really does not matter.
Yeah, I know. But it is in German. The paper is.
Yeah.
And then Frankenstein. Yes! Oh, sorry. This is Dr. Frankenstein.
Dr. Frankenstein.
He goes, "Do you not own a tie?"
Yeah. Ooh.
And John Hurt's like, "I do. It's just that this is a perfectly normal dress where I come from." He's like, "Well, you look like a freak."
Yeah. Yes. And this all comes to he's going to show him his future watch, which, by the way, looks like a really normal watch of the time.
Yes. Wait, does he introduce himself first?
He introduces himself first because it's only as he's leaving where he goes, "And your name is Dr. Frankenstein," you know.
And it's like, "Oh, I know of your work." He's like, "I don't know how that's possible."
That's not possible.
But he does look. He goes, "Is that a timepiece?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh yeah." And he goes, "May I see it?" And he shows it to him, and it's a digital watch. I love that in 1990 that this was made. That's the future.
Yeah.
But this is supposed to be 2038, and he's got a very 1980s LED watch.
Yes.
But Dr. Frankenstein's like, "Well, how does it run? Where are the hands? And how do you have the numbers on it like that?" He's like, "It's kind of fancy. It runs on electricity, but it's so small." Oh, now they're best buddies.
And also, of course, because he's Dr. Frankenstein, he goes, "Electricity, you say?"
Yeah, he goes, "Electricity."
Well, yes, because he is Raul Julia, so everything is kind of pitched at this level.
Another problem I have with this movie, and there are plenty, even though they're doing the period costumes, and Raul Julia is great, looks great. Yep. He's got the coiffed hair and a beard, the whole thing.
Yeah, love it.
And he's a good choice for Dr. Frankenstein if he had some room to breathe. But but the problem is that this looks, and every scene we're going to see looks like someone's doing like a theater production of this, because costumes never get sweaty or dirty.
Nope.
Dr. Frankenstein's hair is always coiffed and perfect.
Yes.
And I'm like, that's a problem.
Even by the end, when he's gone full mad and he's jumping around, it's still his hair is perfect.
Yeah, and no one's sweating or anything like that. So I'm like, little things like that. The monster is the only one that's allowed to look grungy. But I'm like, shouldn't you make this?
Because I got no ability to take a shower.
It should be a lived-in century, and instead, even the extras are wearing nicely pressed. Peasant garb.
I think a lot of what you're talking about is also one of the reasons I thought, aside from the level of actors in this feels like a TV movie.
Yeah, especially when you get
in production quality.
When you get to the Arctic sets at the end, and you're like, "Whoa, boy, that's a lot of styrofoam."
Yes, that's the kind of thing where I'm going now. Raul Julia and John Hurt wouldn't be in like a shitty network TV movie, but beyond that, boy, does this thing feel of that quality.
Yeah, sadly.
It's and I think that, because like I said, like $11.5 million, a lot for Corman, but very cheap by Hollywood standards at this point.
Yes.
And it's one of the reasons why I think
especially for a genre picture.
Yeah, I think it's one of the reasons why this movie just isn't out there. Like, nobody talks about this movie. It's pretty much forgotten by time.
It's an oddity. It's an oddity. If you are a Frankenstein, I'm jumping to the end. If you're a Frankenstein purist, as in love of the character, will you get much out of it? Probably not. But if you're wanting to be a completist, yeah, you should probably watch Frankenstein Unbound.
And like we said, it's worth it mainly for these performances.
Yeah. Good.
His next move is he goes, well, maybe I'll see you again sometime. And Hurt just immediately jumps on the back of Frankenstein's carriage, going like, I want to see where this guy's going. Maybe there's a monster there. And because it's 85 minutes long, he's already made that monster.
The thing that you could almost argue with the character of Dr. Buchanan is you could almost argue, and it would have been a better way to go, that he would have, instead of it being time travel or something like that, if you had him assume that he's having some sort of dream or something like that, then this attitude would make sense, because he'd be like going, oh my God, am I in Frankenstein? Oh shit, I want to go see the monster.
Because
he doesn't feel that it's real.
How about he wrestles with his situation slightly, like, is this reality? Is this a dream? Instead, it's all just like, nope, Frankenstein, got it, let's go.
It's almost like he is a movie fan going like, oh, I wonder where we are in the story.
Yeah. I bet
he's like, oh shit, so your brother's already died. And the monster's already been made. Oh, cool,
yeah,
cool.
Great. Okay, by my calculations, we're in chapter 5 of Frankenstein. Yeah.
That is what it feels like. Yeah. He's going like, oh shit, have we gotten to the musical number yet?
So yes, he follows Frankenstein, who's confronting the monster, and this is our introduction to Nick Brimble as the monster. Now, Nick Brimble's performance, I feel like, is neither here nor there, because this monster doesn't get a lot to do. He gets to standard monster stuff. I think he's okay. The makeup
he's fine.
The makeup is doing a lot of the acting, because it's very in your face.
He's doing some interesting stuff with his movements, which I think a lot of actors that play the creature, they're like, look, if I'm going to be under a lot of makeup, it's going to have to be my walk or the way I stand.
Yes.
And he's doing some interesting things. It looks like he is trying to make it look like his legs are two different lengths.
Yes.
Because he does kind of a hobble walk. You're like, oh, that's interesting.
He's doing a lot. But, now, I just want to bring up that Nick Brimble is in one of my favorite movies, of course.
I knew you were gonna.
Yeah, we have to, man. This is Little John from Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves.
And I listen. A lot of the casting of Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, except for the main character, I really like.
He's great as Little John.
And I thought he was a fine Little John. He's an enormous dude, and he's had a long career.
Yes.
So he's not just a guy that shows up in makeup.
One of the oddities of the in the trivia they bring up is that this says introducing him, despite the fact this is like his 6th film.
Yeah, I know. He was even in Lust for a Vampire. We have seen him in a movie before, though he only played First Villager.
But still, you look. He started acting in 1970. Here we are in 1990, 20 years into his career, and they go introducing Nick. What are you talking about? When that came up, I questioned that.
And he was in another of your favorites, both the movie and TV show, The Sweeney.
Yeah,
he was in Sweeney the movie, and he was in 3 episodes of The Sweeney.
Yeah. Put your pants on, you nicked. That's always the line I remember from the Sweeney.
But anyway, so he is an imposing monster. The makeup is odd.
Once again, good choice of actors. We talk about big dude, big imposing dude. You know.
But here's a big problem. This is where the writing lets him down as an actor.
Yeah.
This movie cannot decide what the creature's intelligence level is, because he comes up saying, he's like, Frankenstein, you've let me down. You've got to bring me food or whatever, or I'll kill your bride. He's speaking very well.
And that's where I went, okay, they're going more with the novel, where he's an eloquent speaking.
And then he says, or something like, did you murder that? He's like, what is murder? Yeah. You just said 2 very, very well constructed sentences, and then what is murder? And then Frankenstein goes, to not live anymore.
Yeah. Also,
and I'm like, Jesus Christ.
Also, what is murder? You just threatened to commit one.
I know. It's very selective, and there's more like that. Like later, it's like because he keeps going to people, just random people, and saying, "Did Frankenstein make you?" And then people go, "No, I was born. You know, my mommy and daddy." He's like, "What is born?" And you're like, "You're half intelligent, and then you get hung up on a word like born." And you think everyone was created by Dr. Frankenstein. That's actually a pretty clever idea for the creature, that he assumes everyone was made by the doctor. That's a clever idea, but you would have to have a much more stupid creature. And this guy is pretty literate until every now and then he's like, "What is cheese?" You know, it's like, "It's this, you eat it." Oh, yeah, God, this is so
he doesn't bring, I mean, I could understand if he brought up some maybe more varied concept or strange word or something, but no, he's just like, murder?
Yes, if it went into something philosophical or something like that, or of course the standby, if you bring up God or religion or the soul, then that's where the creature goes, "What is that? What do you mean by that?"
Later, oh good God, the scene where he and Herder talk, we'll talk about it, but and he's just going like, "But who made you?"
I know. And all silly. Dr. Buchanan goes, "I don't know."
God, maybe? What is God, maybe?
I know. If you're having the creature say stuff like that, then he needs to be completely stupid.
This is not the first time we've seen this. This is often a problem in the writing of the Frankenstein monster. They want to have it both ways.
Yeah, it's like, have him be intelligent. And if he asks questions, have them be at least ones you would understand why he doesn't know the concept. Mm-hmm. But this seems to just randomly be something like, "What are shoes?" And meanwhile, he's already said, "I would like a bride of my own." Yeah. What are shoes? You can't do both of those things. "I am lonely. I will always be lonely. There is no one for me."
Yes.
How does this work?
The loneliness burns my very soul. Also, what is a pen?
That's exactly what this is. So I don't blame the actor. He's doing, and the makeup is strange. It looks like the idea here, it looks like Frankenstein, when he made the creature, he probably sawed like down the middle of the skull to put the brain in, because there's a clear division between face and where hair starts. And it looks weirdly like the doctor may have put a brand new face on him and then stretched it back and clamped it on, because it does have these clamps. It looks kind of like the makeup in Brazil that Katherine Hellman had when she gets her plastic surgery.
Yes. The other thing, it looks like Star Trek makeup to me. It specifically looks like the Sona, who are the villains in Star Trek Insurrection. Do you remember these people with F. Murray Abraham, where they have the stretched out face? Because they're this alien race that's always trying to attain youth, so they're constantly stretching the skin on their faces. That's what it reminded me of, and I think that was very inspired by Brazil, purposefully. Frakes has talked about that, but that's what it reminded me of, very much in that way. And that's what I thought. I thought if I saw this makeup on an episode of Next Generation, I'd be like, "That's a pretty cool looking bad guy."
Yeah,
for this movie,
it would be much more. I mean, it's not terribly done, but it would be much more acceptable in a TV setting.
Once again, further adding to the whole feeling that this feels a little less than. This feels like, it's like, because we got to do another alien bad guy next week on Star Trek.
But basically, in this scene, all it is you got Dr. What's his name again?
Oh, Buchanan, yes, Dr.
But
Buchanan.
he's just spying. He's just spying on the relationship between Frankenstein and this creature.
When I was watching this, I'm going, is the rest of this movie just going to be John Hurt watching the events of Frankenstein play out?
Yeah, he's Rosencrantz and Guildensterning through Frankenstein.
Oh, I can't wait to get to this part. This will be good.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
But here what it is the creature has been responsible for killing sheep to eat, and also apparently the young Frankenstein. But we find out later that a innocent young woman in town has been accused of that murder because she ended up with the locket that belonged to the kid. Anyway, but we're not there yet. So basically, it's just Frankenstein and the creature saying, look, you think you're rid of me? You're not. And all this. And then Frankenstein's like, all right, dude, whatever. Just stay away from me and mine. And then he goes back. And then Buchanan's like, hey, how are things going with the monster? And he goes, are you going to leave him alone now? He goes, no, now he wants a bride.
Yes, because immediately
kill my wife
once
or
again
my fiance.
We've skipped way to the end of the book Frankenstein, like into the third act of classic Frankenstein stories here, because he is going to make me a maid or I'll kill your wife.
Yeah, and he's like, all right.
I'm going like, Jesus Christ, we're like 20 minutes into this movie, but we're an hour and 40 into a Frankenstein movie.
Where are we in Gothic? Oh, we're just barely starting Gothic.
Yeah.
And also, here's the thing that bugs me. One of the most famous stories in all of literary history is the story of the creation of Frankenstein.
Oh, yes.
The reason it was written, the reason was all these very talented, brilliant writers having a decadent summer, but they happened to go to Lake Geneva during the year without a summer because of the eruption of Vesuvius or whatever. And so it was notoriously wretched. It just rained and rained for months, so they were stuck inside. In this movie, when Buchanan runs into Byron and Shelley and Mary Wollstonecraft Shelley, it is sunny and beautiful. Yeah. At no point until the creation of the mate, when there is a storm, at no point is there a reason they would be writing a story. And they're talking that she's already working on her novel.
Yeah, they also, because their portrayal of Mary Shelley in this makes it seem like, well, I've always had this idea in my head, and
I've always had this idea, and then we came here on vacation, and I happened to run into the guy whose actual name is the character, and he had actually created a monster.
Now, I was reading reviews, user reviews of the book, Frankenstein Unbound, and one of the things in there is that apparently the character just randomly decides he needs to kill the monster. That becomes his main goal, is to destroy the monster. And the people's complaint is like, why? It doesn't make any sense. He just randomly decides he needs to destroy the monster. Well,
if he knows the book, then he's like, well, I'll just save Frankenstein the heartbreak of having his wife die.
I guess so, but also, like, if the whole thing is a love letter to Mary Shelley, then does that mean her book doesn't exist? Like, as a time travel story, this does nothing with the standard stakes of time travel.
I know, and especially it's again, terrible. If the whole idea is to paint her as a brilliant writer, if the idea wasn't hers, if she's just bumped into an interesting true story, what are you doing? The idea is what's so startling, that a 19-year-old woman came up with this concept, one of the first science fiction novels of all time, and wrote it brilliantly and got it published, which was unheard of for the day. So it is a great story. It has been turned into mini movies and TV shows and whatever, but this half-asses everything about it and makes her look like someone that's just like if you had moved to London in 1888 and you're like, just reporting on the Jack the Ripper murders.
Yeah.
Anyway, off the high horse.
And that's the great novel.
So it's essentially this is just now does he, I can't remember, how does he find out about Byron and company? Because he's with Frankenstein right now.
Yes, well, that's when he's going to go to court, which is the next thing he does. First, he's got to go back to his car.
Right. Yes.
First, he's got to go back to his car and go, okay, well, look, I've gone back in time. Car, start thinking of a way to get me back to the future. Oh, sorry,
right.
we can't say that legally.
But he does weirdly walk off humming Back in Time by Huey Lewis and the News.
Time. Well, that's another big...
You gotta get back in time.
Is this the future?
Yes, that is the sequel. Sorry. In this, he's humming Power of Love. Yeah.
The Power of Love. I do want to see that Back to the Future musical that's on stage in London right now.
I did not know there was.
Yeah, I hear that's a lot of fun. I mean, obviously, they've incorporated the Huey Lewis songs then into the play itself.
They would have to.
Yeah, which is great, man.
It don't take money.
Yeah.
It don't take fame.
Yeah.
You don't need a credit card to ride this train.
Yeah. Just might save your life. That's the power of love. One of my all-time.
Right, you're the one getting us sued.
Yeah,
thanks a lot, John.
One of my favorite movies of all time, man. I've seen that movie so many times. Back to the Future.
That is a trilogy that even though you know that they weren't planning a trilogy and they had to. I don't care. I love all three.
No, when people talk about how many trilogies don't work, I always go to Back to the Future because I think all three of those are absolutely.
I think the McFly saga is one for the ages.
Absolutely, absolutely. So you go. I do like this whole thing is like you start running computations. You figure out how to get me home. I don't need to worry about that. Anyway,
he goes, do your beep boop and figure out how to get me back.
With the beeping and the booping, and I'm going to go back into town once again and see what's happening. So this is where he goes to. This is where he comes in contact with Shelley.
He goes to the
trial of the girl who's been accused of killing William Frankenstein.
Innocent young farm girl, and she has defenders. Like the guy who owned the sheep was like, no, I tell you people, it was a monster. A huge monster killed my sheep. And she is saying, I didn't kill the boy. And then why do you have the locket? And she's like, well, he gave it to me, but I didn't. I found him.
Yeah. And I do love this crowd and how they're laughing at stuff and
they're having a great time.
Lots of that, yeah. Because when the guy shows the footprint of the monster, they're like, "No, preposterous!" Yes.
Here's what I don't understand: Buchanan becomes very involved in trying to free her, and yet he could have stood up here in court and said, "There is a monster. I've seen it." He could have backed up the other dude.
Yeah.
He could have said that. No,
because instead this guy is not we've established he's very much into the idea of getting involved in the past. It's not like a thing where it's like, I dare not, for I affect the, No, none of that.
But he happens to see Elizabeth Frankenstein in the audience. He doesn't know her yet, but he also happens to see a very attractive woman sitting all alone.
Oh,
and he's like,
yeah.
What? There's an available chair over there. Why won't anyone sit with her? And they're like, don't you know who that is?
She's Lord Byron's mistress, is what they say.
They say Lord Byron's mistress and the fiance of the poet Shelley.
Is that how she would have been described? I don't think it's wrong on a few levels.
At that point, they were, of course, much more famous than her. But also, she was not known as Byron's mistress because she wasn't.
No.
Byron slept with a lot of men and women, and who knows, maybe there were threesomes with that group, but public knowledge was simply that she was engaged to Shelley.
Yeah.
But they're like that.
Well, and this is something that the book that once again, critics of the book I was reading brought this up, is like, she wasn't, at least what we know, she wasn't quite this sexually open woman like this movie portrays, where she'd just be like, yeah, I'll fuck this time traveler.
Yeah, she is. No, she does the terrible line later in the movie where she goes, "They are men." She's talking about Shelley and Byron who profess free love. I practice it.
Yeah.
I mean, she lived a very scandalous life for her time, but it was more about how dare she be a thinking woman who keeps making political statements about having women's rights and so forth.
I saw that movie about her. I've seen stuff about. I know a little bit about her. I never heard just like, oh, she was DTF, man.
No.
God, yeah.
But they, she loved. I mean, she was weird. Shelley, when he died, and she had his body burned and kept his heart.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I mean, and that's part of the whole mythos of her because it fits with the whole gothic aesthetic. Yeah. It's an interesting thing. I actually went, because I was watching this movie, I go, I've never heard anybody talk about any of her other books. And I know that some do, but pretty much people. So I went on and go like, what else did she write? And a bunch of stuff that's kind of interesting.
She wrote a bunch of stuff, but the thing is, a lot of what she's remembered for, besides Frankenstein, aren't books. They're treatises. Yeah. I mean, she was a political writer.
I did read, I did read about her she kind of started the whole like last man on earth post-apocalyptic thing, which I don't hear enough people credit her for, but that's awesome. Like,
well, isn't one of her novels called like The Last Man?
The Last Man, and people talk about that was kind of the first to do the like post-apocalyptic wasteland.
And of course, in Frankenstein, it ends in an apocalyptic way. I mean, it ends in the Antarctic, so obviously, but
this movie, thank you, Corman, makes literal post-apocalyptic nuclear winter or whatever, basically.
But here you have Buchanan instantly starstruck, and you would be by seeing a young Bridget Fonda.
Bridget Fonda, who doesn't look anything like Mary Shelley.
I know. I was sitting there going, they just left her hair blonde.
Yeah.
And Mary
blonde.
Shelley was brunette.
Yeah. And,
but anyway.
Yeah, who I mean, we have paintings and such.
It's not like we didn't know what she looked like. So,
and was probably you would have been attracted to her, maybe. I don't know, but
oh no, she looks very cute.
Yeah,
but
she doesn't look
you've
like
got Buchanan,
blonde. Once again, very modern American Bridget Fonda.
So he goes, "Are you saying that's Mary Shelley?" And they go, "Not Shelley yet. That's Mary Godwin."
Yeah,
and he's like, "Oh, all right."
Yeah.
For
the love of God, she's not a man's property yet.
Yeah, so essentially she is being left alone because she's an outsider and she has scandalous relations with poets.
Oh, she fucks, man. She fucks.
Yeah, it's like no one will sit next to her because she fucks.
Yeah, you might get something from her just by sitting near her. Jesus Christ.
But he decides, you know what? Screw it. I'm from 2038. Yeah. I'm going to go sit next to Mary Godwin.
And in fact, I'm going to get me a piece. This is another thing. I don't think of John Hurt as a guy who's like a ladies' man and stuff either.
They're trying here to make him not Kirk-like, but he is like we've already mentioned how cavalier he is about time travel.
Adventure character, yeah.
Yeah, he's like going, you know what? I don't know. I don't care that she's a famous historical figure. Damn. I got the hots for her, so I'm scooting in there.
Yeah, I mean this is prime Bridget Fonda once again. So I mean, yeah, she's. Once again, but she's like, I mean, that's why she's so well used in like Jackie Brown. She's like a hot California beach girl kind of,
I mean, weirdly, I do blame her looks because her looks always were modern.
Yes.
She does not look like a person from that
Same
time
thing
period.
With Jason Patrick. It's the problem with all of them, right? That play the like writer.
Well, also they're all much more pretty, model pretty, because they're actors and actresses.
Yeah, and
so you look at Shelley's portraits and things like that. He was considered very handsome, and Mary was considered attractive, but that is a different aesthetic.
Yeah.
So you look at Bridget Fonda, and she looks like the '90s.
Yeah. Which makes sense because
she's doing a bit of an accent, a little bit of one, but you're like, okay, don't try too hard.
Like I said, that makes sense to me because she was the kind of it girl in this era. I mean, we're not that far out from Singles and stuff like that,
Yeah, man, I just crushed big time on her.
I mean, she was like the parts she played in movies were totally designed for you to crush on her.
Yep.
Like that was it. Oh, Single White Female is 2 years from here.
Yes. She was she was almost Manic Pixie Dream Girl, but not.
Yeah. Oh,
not
Doc Hollywood.
Singles.
She
has comic chops, like in the comedy she was in. She was actually pretty funny, and that includes Doc Hollywood.
Yeah,
it's a shame that
it could happen to you. That's very sort of Capra-esque.
She never hit big, but she was always a welcome presence.
I feel like she was always well thought of, though. Like people knew she was a good actress. Oh fuck, I love A Simple Plan. What a great movie.
Oh yeah.
That's great, man.
And I know you're a huge fan of Monkey Bone.
Big Monkey Bone guy. I actually do like Kiss of the Dragon, which I think is their last theatrical movie, the Jet Li martial arts movie of all things for her to be in.
I never saw it.
It's pretty good, but it's a Jet Li martial arts movie. It's kind of weird but Bridget Fonda's in it. He's trying to protect her from bad guys. Like it's.
I would do that.
Yeah. And
I'm saying right now that though she wouldn't get much protection from me,
yeah,
I would die for Bridget Fonda.
She married Danny Elfman, and that just she seems to just be living a quiet life, I guess, with him, and cool.
They're raising a family and being just adorable and that kind of thing.
I mean, I do love Danny Elfman. They're two people I like quite a bit. So, but she's always welcome to come back to movies. Come on.
Yep. We didn't close the door, Bridget.
Never will. Okay, so let's see. Yeah, John Hurt, she's on trial. She's immediately found guilty. This seems like this is a 20-minute trial based on what we see here. She's been accused of, they talk about, there's no way she could physically have broken this kid's neck. They go, it must have been witchcraft then.
I know. They immediately go, it was witchcraft. And you're like, I do know that jurisprudence has come a long way since the 19th century, but I'm just sitting there going, she had no chance. She even had someone standing up for her saying that's not possible that she did it. And I know that she didn't. And it was a monster. And they won't believe a monster, but they'll believe this little woman somehow used witchcraft to kill a young boy.
Yeah. And
she's a sweet girl that everyone seems to know. And yet
she's a witch.
She's a witch. String her up.
I know. I want Terry Jones in the crowd saying that, right? Don't you?
Well, I want
Terry Jones.
Yeah. I want Terry Jones in every legal drama.
Yeah.
Just in the audience going, string her up. She's a witch.
She's a witch. Sir, actually, this is the divorce trial. She's a witch. String her up. He's in Marriage Story yelling it.
Yeah, that'd be the best. It'd be awesome if he was like in Irreconcilable Differences. And, she's a witch.
She's a witch. Yeah.
Oh dear God,
sir.
I'm sorry I brought up an Alan Alda movie from the 80s.
Was he in Irreconcilable Differences?
Wasn't that?
That was Ryan O'Neal.
Oh shit, you're right. Sorry.
Yeah, which is interesting because I brought up Marriage Story, which Alan Alda is in.
Yes, I think that's why my brain went to Alan Alda. You're right.
Irreconcilable Differences it's Ryan O'Neal. Who's he?
And it wasn't it Shelley
Long.
Shelley Long, yeah.
And Drew Barrymore is their daughter who divorces them. Isn't that the thing?
And she was doing more drugs than any of the people in the
Unquestionably, yeah. Anyway. Anything to not talk about this movie, it seems like. So John Hurt goes, well, I'll go find the monster. That's what I'll do to fix this. And so he rushes off into the woods. He gets grabbed by the monster. And then I do like a Frankenstein that's packing heat.
I know you do.
Raul Julia starts shooting at the monster here.
I like this because he at least they're acknowledging the period because he takes a shot and then he spends the next 3 minutes talking while reloading.
I did love that as well. He's packing the gunpowder and they're going, "You monsterless thing! I swear I will kill you when you
just stay right there. Stay.
Give me a second.
Don't move."
And the monster goes, "I want a mate. I've said this before." And Frankenstein's like, "And I've said no. We've been through it a few times." And so John Hurt goes, maybe I could help you with that, but you got to do something for me and tell the court that you built a monster that killed your brother. And he's like, I can't have that getting out. I'll never live that down.
Yeah. He's like, yeah, I'm thinking about my rep here.
Yeah. And so he goes, okay, fine. Here's a letter. And John Hurt goes, I'll deliver it to the court. He goes, no, don't do that. Take it to Elizabeth.
This is so strange because, okay, he's like, I won't do that. It'll damage my rep. But here, I actually will admit to it on paper.
Yeah.
And then, of course, he's amazed by a modern pen. That's exciting.
What? He goes, why, ink contained within the pen?
And then he is completely stunned by an envelope that has the lick seal. Yeah. He's like, wow, you lick it and it sticks. Oh, that's crazy.
And it tastes like peppermint. Amazing. Yep. By the way, I could have watched 85 minutes of Raul Julia's Dr. Frankenstein being amazed by commonplace things in modern day. You hold down the lever and it punches 3 holes in the paper.
Are you saying... No, I'm with you, but are you saying that this contraption, which is a bent wire, can hold different sheafs of paper together by clipping them?
Miraculous, my boy, miraculous, yes.
Yeah, you call this what, a spoon? Anyway, so he writes a confession, and yes, Hurt's like, great, I will take this to court. He goes, no. Take it to my fiance, and I don't know why he can't deliver it. I don't know.
This is insane. But I like that
he
goes,
take it to my fiance. She's rich.
Yes, she's from a well-respected family, so that will carry a lot of favor with the court.
Yeah, so if she goes in on my behalf and says this nonsense about a monster, then maybe the girl will be safe.
This feels like such a random sojourn in the movie just to introduce Elizabeth to John Hurt.
Yeah, it actually feels like if you're playing a video game and you get some dumb fetch quest.
Yes, that's
Like
exactly
you have to take this magic flute to a guy, and you're like, dude, this has nothing to do with the rest of the plot of it.
No, and it's just he goes.
I'll get some XP and I'll get like a couple of gold pieces. Great.
And it takes a while because he goes there and he goes, I want to see Elizabeth. They're like, well, who are you? You know, it's
yeah,
like,
they're looking down on him. Wait, hasn't he gotten his contemporary duds by this point, though?
Yes.
At least they're not looking at his weird coat and lack of a tie.
That does happen here. And but they're just like, what is this that you dare to speak to Elizabeth and whatever? And then she's like, oh, let him off if it's from. I just thought there's so much of this like back and forth with these doormen. I'm just going, what is happening, movie?
Also, since you're an 85-minute movie or whatever, and you have 3 big stories that all need some attention, don't you think you're being wasteful here?
Yes.
It's just wasteful.
Yes. It's absolutely wasteful.
You could have literally cut to the salon and have Dr. Buchanan talking to Elizabeth. You didn't need anything with doormen. You could have cut 3 minutes off of the story right there.
Yeah, and it also she can get the letter, and he goes, well, aren't we going to go to the court? Now she goes, go to the court. This says to get out of Geneva as fast as possible. I think she does say Geneva. I think this is where they say Geneva. But she's also staying at like Villa Frankenstein or Frankenstein Manor. I don't want to call it. It's not castle by any stretch of the imagination.
No, it does look like a villa.
Yeah. But he sees the name on it, which I found funny once again when he arrives and he goes, Frankenstein. I'm like, you've already been talking to. Why are you impressed that his name's on a building? So anyway, meanwhile, we cut to the monster who's. I don't know where the monster is in relation to anyone else. Is because he's ready. He's always right near to talk to.
He's always around, but he's also
far away.
That has been a common problem with almost every Frankenstein movie we've talked about.
Yeah, where is he? Where is he like when? Because we only see him when he's doing something important. Where is he hanging out? Just out in the woods, just sitting there?
You go back to Bride and you go back to Ghost of Frankenstein, and it seems like the creature is literally just in the bushes, underneath a window where Elizabeth is, and it's just been sitting there eating sandwiches, waiting for now I get her.
I like to think he's just dead-eyed, staring off into the distance until some plot point is going to happen.
Yeah.
All right, now I gotta go to town.
Someone's job is to cue him.
Time to go to town.
Time for a neck snapping.
Well, and we don't get a neck snapping here. Instead, we get he wanders into town because they're shooting fireworks, and he's very like. I thought he was gonna be scared because I'm used to once again fire bad. But here he's going ooh ah, and then of course these kids see him and they're terrified. And we do get a cop with essentially, what's all this then?
It is close.
Yeah, and he starts blowing a whistle, and the monster doesn't like that, so he picks him up and pulls his heart out of his chest.
Yeah, this is where
he goes
Corman's
in.
Like,
he goes
people
in,
are getting itchy, right? There's not enough horror in it, so
he goes in under the rib cage, right, and pulls the heart out like that, which is a wild.
And then he holds it up to show the guy, and I do love this in video games or whatever, but this doesn't happen.
Yeah.
The heart is still beating in his hand, and he shows it to the guy who's like dying, going, and he's looking at his own heart.
Yeah. I mean, it only works in Temple of Doom, where it's like a black magic thing, and it's keeping the guy alive. That works. That's good.
Kalima!
Yeah. Pretty fun stuff. I'd rather be watching Indiana Jones movie. Any of them.
I would too.
So that happens, and that's just because that's it. That's the end of the scene. It's just we got a little bit of gore. Nothing comes of that. Meanwhile, they're preparing for the hanging. I love all this it should be enough weight on the rope. Yeah, that seems to be about right.
And again, this is an excellent use of time.
I know. So Hurt walks by, and he goes to the computer. He's like, now where would Mary Shelley have been staying around this time, baby?
This is... Wait, does he think that his job is done because he handed that off? And so now he's free to just wander around like, well, I probably saved the girl.
No,
because he sees the girl die.
That hasn't happened. He sees he's going to marry Shelley so she can help him save the girl, which is a weird decision.
Oh, right.
Because he already knows the note said for Elizabeth to leave Geneva, not to save the girl. So he's like, all right, Frankenstein fucked me over. Let me try Mary Shelley. She was in the crowd at the trial.
Yes.
She must be able to help.
Good old Mary Godwin. She's my backup plan.
So he goes to Lake Geneva, where they're staying here, and man, it's just Lord Byron practicing with his pistol for some reason. Kablow!
Yeah, he's just
walking
around and shooting. And
in the lovely weather, once again, as we're talking about, the absolutely beautiful, crystal clear skies.
It's never been nicer.
Yeah,
and but the thing, again, I don't know what kind of direction Corman gave anybody, but it's almost like they're doing, as I said, an SNL sketch, because there's an idea you have of Shelley and Lord Byron. Because they were such romantic poets that were almost always on laudanum or whatever.
And of course,
my
vision of them is the beginning of Bride of Frankenstein, right?
Yes, and you imagine them sort of just like walking around in a languid way, and that's exactly what they're doing. It's almost like a cliche, because he's like, "Who might you be?" "Oh, I am Lord Byron. Hello."
Yes. Oh, yes. He's got.
Are you British?
No, you're obviously not British.
You're obviously not British.
Yeah. It's to John Hurt, once again. Hilarious.
I know.
What are the... But he goes, what are those...
ever confused that man for being British, so I get it.
What are those contraptions... What is that contraption on your head? And he gives him these binocular glasses that just...
Yeah.
Oh, I do like that immediately Lord Byron's like, oh, the peeping I can do...
Yeah. He's like, I can see things far away.
Because I do like that he goes, oh, let's see what Mary's up to. Oh, unfortunately, nothing nefarious or whatever it is. Nothing naughty.
Yeah.
Ooh, that naughty girl.
Such a naughty girl, but today she's just in a boat.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Yes, because we've rewritten her in this movie to be a nympho.
She can't stop getting it.
Yeah.
I don't know if you Americans know that phrase.
Yeah.
Getting it?
Yeah. She's got to have it. That's a good title. Maybe someone could use that someday.
One of his famous poems, She's Gotta Have It.
That's where Spike Lee got the title.
I always thought, wow, it's weird that Spike Lee chose something from a romantic British poet of the 19th century.
He's a big Byron head. That's a big time. I would love to see Spike Lee talk about the poems of Lord Byron. I would pay so much money to hear him talk about that. So he's ingratiated by giving Byron ogling spectacles, basically.
Yeah, and he's like, well, now we're friends, and you should come back for dinner and just be interesting. That's all we ask. I
don't quite understand how Mary can help, because what's going to happen next is that they're going to hang this girl, and John Hurt just busts in with an axe going, that ain't going to happen!
I know. He basically, I guess this is Plan C. Mm-hmm. Plan C is just to run in like a lunatic. You can't hang her! No, she's innocent now!
Well, I'm going to call this the Errol Flynn plan, to just swing in and be like, I think not!
Yep. And it doesn't work, John.
No, because of course... They actually, he's standing on the trap door of the gallows, and they just drop him so he falls, and then a bunch of people grab him and knock him out.
And actually the crowd laughs at him, which I think is also kind of great.
Yeah. Well,
they're like, oh, that crazy lunatic tried to save the girl. That's dumb.
Anyway, so he's knocked out. We didn't talk about this the first time he fell unconscious, but throughout the way he keeps getting these weird...
Oh, right.
What I kept calling devil visions, because he basically is envisioning this devilish version of himself, right?
Yeah, it's like an evil him with some weird makeup on.
Yeah,
and he's also, and basically it's like a satanic Dr. Frankenstein,
right,
played by him, and he's also on the slab like the creature would be. So evil him is talking to victim him and saying, I'm going to make you all better, and then he uses a laser to chop his legs off, and you're like, oh, wow.
I don't know what this has to do with anything other than, of course, the once again very literal message of he is the monster.
Yeah, he is also Frankenstein. Bum bum bum.
Man, if I didn't, and then I love when they finally just say that at the end of the movie.
Yeah, when he actually says, "I am Frankenstein." Wow.
And I was like, wait, what? Oh my God.
Was your jaw literally also on the floor? I had to call in a neighbor to help me get my jaw up off the floor because, for one thing, my jaw is extremely heavy.
Yeah,
and I was just like,
yeah,
thank you.
That's a 2-person lift.
It is a 2-person lift, and they said, what happened? And I then showed them the scene.
Yeah.
Then it was embarrassing because both of our jaws on the floor.
Then I guess the presumption is they threw him in the lake or whatever, the river, because he wakes up on the bank of the water with Mary Shelley.
Yeah. I'm not quite sure. That segue, I felt like something got cut there.
Probably. Because we never saw him go into the water. But she's like, oh, good, you've awoken. And look, I mean, if you're going to awake from being attacked, in the arms of Bridget Fonda is not a bad place to be.
That's just the dream of all.
Yeah. Yes, she's there, and he goes, would you care to go for a ride in my automobile? And
okay, here's the thing.
He's just cruising around with Mary Shelley.
His cavalier attitude is ridiculous. And also the fact that he wanted to save an innocent.
Yeah.
He has woken up knowing he failed.
Because she tells him, she does tell him that, no, that girl was hung.
And is there any impact of him going, shit? No, he's just like, are you kidding me? I get to spend an afternoon with Mary Godwin?
Yeah.
Oh, fuck yeah. And then he's like, you want to take a ride? Yeah. And he shows her a future car, and she's blown away by future car. And it's not only showing her future car, he shows it to everybody because he's driving around town.
Well, this is also where he goes...
These people were believing in witchcraft and hung a woman. You think they're not going to throw burning bales of hay at this dude?
Yeah.
And... He drives through town, and then he also, because he's just feeling it, he goes, I love your work. And she's like, I don't know. How could you even know?
And he's like, check the glove compartment. There's a copy of your book.
He goes, I'm from the future, and I read your book. And she's like, I've been working on a book. He's like, there it is. And she goes, how does it end? I love it. She goes, how does it end, my book?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is. This is insane.
It's insane. As far as time travel goes, this is not Distant Sound of Thunder. This is not like, don't step on a butterfly. This is
hot rodding around in his future car with Mary Shelley and
Dr.
going,
Buchanan,
why don't you read your book?
Dr. Buchanan went back in time and essentially set off a bomb that destroyed all butterflies on Earth. He does not fucking care about the future at this point.
He's like, he goes,
let's see what damage we can do.
Next thing, he heads later into the future and he goes, hey, Abe Lincoln, don't go to the theater. Get in my car. Let's go. Vroom, vroom.
Dude, he ended up basically going to that place outside of time and butt fucking Kang the Conqueror because he just didn't care about the space-time continuum. He's like, take it. I don't care what happens.
I just want the adventures of the nonchalant time traveler.
I call this the Buchanan verse.
Just cruising around time in his sweet hot rod. Also, I did think about, we don't know how this thing is powered, but where is he getting juice for it?
Well, I think the implication here is that it is running on some sort of nuclear cell. It could probably run for centuries, kind of thing.
All right, we'll give him that. They never go into it, of course.
They don't.
That would have been.
And we do know that
Does he have a Mr. Fusion?
That Frankenstein's second experiment will be powered by Future Car.
Correct. Future Car. That was the alternate title for this movie.
Yeah.
Frankenstein Unbound or Future Car.
Frankenstein versus Future Car.
The poster is just the monster with his fists out in the car.
And I love the fact that Corman was probably torn. He was like, that does seem more like me.
Well, I will say...
Like, no, go with classy. Frankenstein, I don't know, Frankenstein versus Future Car.
We mentioned that this is an $11.5 million budget. I do have worldwide gross.
Yeah?
334,000.
Oh god.
That's a disaster of epic proportions.
Wow.
I mean, I'm sure it did better on home video, but still, Jesus Christ.
But this was the thinking man's monster movie.
Yeah, therein lies the problem. People don't want to think, right? Except you don't. As we talked about, we don't. Yeah, I do see in the reviews here a lot of people saying, "I saw this on HBO." Like, oh yeah, this feels like early '90s HBO movie, just in general. That they would have made.
And they're sitting there going, "Look, it's a thinking man's horror movie, but don't think too hard."
Yeah,
because then you get angry at things like driving future car through 1817 Luxembourg or wherever the fuck.
Yeah. He's driving his future car. I wish they had made
showing Mary Shelley her book.
I wish they had made Dracula Unbound. I would have loved to have seen him cruise into the Dracula story too and be like, "What's up? Hey, Mina."
And of course, he'll either end up sleeping with Mina or he'll end up sleeping with Bram Stoker because he wrote the
Why
book.
Not both? It's a three-way, baby.
Three-way.
In the car.
Hey, baby, could you open the back?
Yeah. I'm having a couple of friends over. Wink.
Do you wish to get busy, Dr. Buchanan? Yeah. You know it, baby.
He's just the Austin Powers of time travel.
He is British, and he does call his car baby.
Yeah, but I just want to see the thing where he goes, "Bram Stoker, here's an idea: vampires. Bye."
So I'm not saying based solely on his personality or looks, he couldn't have bed Mary Godwin.
But it just happens.
In this case, he literally just blows her mind.
Yeah.
I'm from the future. Look at my future car. And I've got a copy of your book. At this point, she's just like going, "Take me."
When they kiss, I did think, Jesus Christ, what the hell is this movie? Now he's just going to do Mary Shelley? And
then he does.
Yeah, and he also probably, well, we don't find out in the sequel, he impregnated her, obviously.
Yeah.
This is insane. She had I was reading her biography, like all of her kids died. Real sad stuff.
Yeah, it is. It is very
only
sad.
One of the kids survived. Jesus Christ. So anyway, they get it on. And then he goes, I like this. This is where she goes, "Well, maybe the reason you're here is to stop Frankenstein." He's like, "Ooh, there's an idea."
Hold on a second. I like this. Keep going.
Mm-hmm. And then I like that. So then he runs to Dr. Frankenstein, and who in between scenes has decided, "Yes, I'm going to make the monster his mate. I'm going to do it, old man. I tell you, I have no choice." I was still doing the John Hurt voice for him.
Okay, here's where, I mean, there are a lot of problems, but basically, okay, Dr. Frankenstein has decided he's going to make the mate.
Yes.
The monster is still under the impression he's going to renege on it.
Yes.
And then the monster, this is not from the novel, this is strictly for the movie, because Elizabeth is rushing to Dr. Frankenstein in her carriage
because she was said
and
to
the
leave
Frankenstein
Geneva
monster pops up like, I don't know.
My God.
Was he just hanging from the rigging of the horses? Because he pops up between the horses.
Well, no, we see him come out of the woods because we see him gaining on the carriage.
Yes, that's right. He runs after it, but when she sees him, he's now between the horses and pops up.
Yeah,
and she's like, "Ah!" And then he
fastest
kills
man alive,
the horses
the Frankenstein
in
monster.
He kills the horses in mid gallop somehow.
What can't he do, man? That's what I'm saying.
And that kills Elizabeth. And what's more, Dr. Frankenstein knows Elizabeth's dead, and talk about no reaction to this. And we know Raul Julia is a fine actor, or Julia.
Yeah.
And they gave him, basically, Frankenstein's like going, "Well, I guess I'll just use her body for the bride then. My beloved Elizabeth, might as well use her body."
This is going to kind of work out. I'll do the monster's bidding and get the love of my life back.
Yep. And that is essentially his motivation for this last part.
And I do like when, we didn't talk about the way the monster kills her, which is she goes off the wagon and he rips open her bodice and you think, oh my God, he's going to like rape her. No, he just tears open her whole chest, not just the...
My question is, but then the answer is Corman. But my question is, if that was his plan, he didn't have to tear the bodice and then the rib cage. Mm-hmm. He could have just torn them together in one go.
No.
But tearing the bodice gives us a quick flash of boob.
Yeah.
And then it's, you know what?
First
now I'm going to just rip the whole chest open.
First I need to see them titties. then I'll
And
kill
I
her.
wonder, I did have a thought about the way they shot all the ultra-violent scenes.
Yeah.
I think they did this purposefully to cut them for other markets.
Yes.
Because every single time it's hyper-violent,
yeah,
it's not a medium shot. It's
No.
a close-up of hands and of
a
fake
prosthetic
makeup
chest
body.
or whatever. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, so I'm like, okay, they were thinking we can easily cut around it. The implication would still work, but for the bloody audiences, you get the close-up of rip. There it is.
That's a Corman move to be like, well, this is smart business-wise.
Yep.
Yeah. I can't remember. Have we done Corman? Was he Humanoids from the Deep? Was that Corman?
Yeah. Yes.
I was. Yeah.
Only production-wise.
Yeah, producer.
I mean,
but I'm talking about
producer.
Yeah, producer-wise. But I was gonna say we have covered a Corman-involved joint on here before.
We have a Corman joint.
A Roger Corman joint.
Again, Spike Lee.
I would love to hear Spike Lee going like, you know what I think Roger Corman's best movie is we took a lot of influence from Little Shop of Horrors for Crooklyn.
Basically, this character is Mr. Mushnick, and this character is...
I can't believe nobody's caught it.
It's right there. I thought I was being way too obvious.
Yeah. So, oh god, we got to talk about the creature's arm getting. Oh no, sorry, not the creature. There's a mob, and when I say mob, I mean like 5 to 6 people surround the creature after he kills Elizabeth. Yes. And this crowd is broken up by when the creature rips one of the guy's arms off.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. That's what you're looking for. Oh, and he throws 2 other guys into the tree.
Yep.
Yeah. But yeah. So
actually the person tossing was pretty cool. Was pretty well done.
It was all right.
I liked it.
Yeah, it'll do. It's on par with like your hammer tossing of people, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I do like that. We cut back to Frankenstein because Hurt gets knocked out in this once again. More crazy visions.
Yep, another one.
Yeah. And we just cut to he awakes and Frankenstein is looking over the future car going, "Quite a device, Doctor."
Yeah. This is where finally because he's already told Mary because, he needed it. He had to have it.
Mm-hmm.
But this is where he finally goes, "All right, I'm from the future." And he goes, "And you know my work." Sweet.
Yeah. And he's like, "But I will not help you." And then the creature grabs him by the throat. He's like, "Actually, I take that back. I will help."
Yeah. He goes, "How is it powered?" And he's like, He goes, "Well, we could use that for my experiment."
Wait, hold on. Did you just say electricity?
Yeah.
I do love the way that Frankenstein always goes, "Hold on, wait. Did someone say electricity?"
Because you know who never did? Mary Shelley.
That's right.
That is not how the creature is brought to life.
We've talked about this. It's more alchemy and kind of stuff
in
the book. It's kind of vague and almost
magical.
It is vague,
which is good.
Yeah.
She's not going hard science.
That all comes from Universal, right? Having to figure out how to...
Yeah.
How do we need to visualize this, which means it needs to be more grounded in some capacity, so... electricity.
I will say that was a great choice. It was. And so dramatic. That's the thing. A storm bringing someone to life.
And every single version I think I've ever seen of Frankenstein after uses some variation on that.
Yep.
It's just become it's so interesting. I always go back to those Universal movies had such influence over the pop culture, of course.
Absolutely.
Of these characters. I guarantee there are people who swear that there's the storm of electricity in the book.
Oh, you got to know it.
Yeah.
Even if they read it sometime in the past, I bet
that's
bleeds
definitely
into their brain.
No, it's really not. So he's gonna pull the old switcheroo. John Hurt here by going, "Okay, baby, here's the thing. As soon as you get enough juice, fire the time laser." Which at this point is what it is, right? It's the particle beam still. But he goes, "Fire it at Frankenstein's castle."
Yeah.
But they go, "But sir, you don't know where in time you'll be sent." "It doesn't matter. We just need to get it out of here."
Yeah.
So he's willing to. I don't.
And again, it's totally cavalier. Yeah. It's totally him going, "Look, don't worry about that."
Yeah.
sir, what if this ends up sometime and don't worry about that.
And then one of the best scenes in the movie is where he goes, "Excuse me, monster, would you mind heaving these cords up to the roof?" Like,
yeah.
Monster.
Do you think you're strong enough to do this? He goes, "Oh, Frankenstein made me plenty strong."
And this is where we get the whole thing about, like, did Frankenstein make you? No, Then who did? I don't know. Not good enough. Answer question. We'll ask 8 more times and see.
Yeah. And he goes, I don't know, God maybe? And then it is literally him saying, who is this God maybe? And you're like, oh boy.
God, you're dumb. God, you're dumb.
And then, is it in this same scene where the monster looks up at the cloud?
Yeah.
The time slip cloud, and he's like, what's that? And then Dr. Buchanan goes, and this is my favorite line from the movie.
Yeah.
And also something I've been told I'm no longer allowed to say in public restrooms. Buchanan goes, meet my monster.
Yes.
Is what he, that's what he says about the time slip cloud is meet my monster.
Yeah. By the way, you've been saying that to every toilet before using it, right?
Yeah, but when people overhear it, they read it totally wrong.
They get the wrong idea. You're just preparing the toilet for what you're about to do to it.
I'm just preparing the toilet. It's not an invitation to the other people.
No.
All right, Bull, meet my monster.
It is one of the quotes listed on IMDb. Meet ... my monster! ! Is how it's written on IMDb.
Yeah, that might need to be a t-shirt for our show too. Jones and Campbell, meet my monster.
Yeah. And I love that the creature who has not been able to follow anything anyone talks about is like, okay.
Yeah, no, he's like, got it.
Yeah, that's a good enough. I understand the metaphor.
I don't understand who God maybe is, but I get that you made that cloud somehow. Got it.
This all adds up. So yes, while they're performing the experiment and the lightning's hitting and they're trying to bring Elizabeth back to life, we see that the laser is powering up downstairs.
Yeah, we've got a ticking clock here, my friend.
And this is when John Hurt sees that the body he's made is Elizabeth. He's like, oh, dear God, Victor.
And it is Elizabeth with similar makeup.
Why?
To the creature.
Why?
Because maybe in putting... Wait, he wouldn't have been putting a new brain in her.
No!
So why would he have had to open up the head at all?
I have no idea.
And then stitch the face back?
I don't know. That's what I'm saying. It doesn't make any sense.
I don't think I even thought about that watching it. I was just like, right. Anytime he makes a monster, they're going to look like that.
I was immediately... All the damage is done to her chest. That's what he'd be sewing up. Maybe he might have to put a new heart in her or something, but...
Yeah.
And also, he does this miraculously fast, because I think that happened, like, earlier that day she died. Like,
yeah, I know, but he's got her all wired up, and there's a storm coming in, but it's a time storm!
This is another thing that I've seen creep into a lot of other adaptations, is Elizabeth is the mate, the bride.
Yeah.
That's become more and more common. And I think
it does make economic story sense, because she does die in the novel. So that's also gives fresh female body.
It gives Frankenstein motivation to build it, because it's like this, where it's like, I will do this and I will bring back Elizabeth.
Yeah, or I will do this and destroy it, because this is truly an abomination, because that's who I love.
Right.
But yeah, it works.
It's been a while since I've seen it, but I think the Brana version does that.
Yes,
it does. Yeah, with Helena Bonham Carter. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that is the best scene in it.
There's great.
I'll say that in advance, but the scene where, the dance scene with her and she's flopping around like a corpse, that is very disturbing.
There's a lot of good stuff, particularly imegery-wise, in that movie.
Yeah, it tries.
Yeah,
we'll be talking about it soon enough.
Its heart is in the right place, man.
That mean to the left of the breastbone?
Yep, yeah, that's it, exactly. So the experiment's beginning. She's kind of coming back to life, but I do like John Hurt saying, "But you can't make a soul, Victor." And Raul Julia just being like, "A soul!"
Yeah, he's like, that is poppycock, essentially. Yeah. Oh, that's the dumb story that people tell themselves.
And then he has my favorite line in the movie, which is they can't quite bring her back to life, and he finally just goes, "Pull all the levers."
Yeah, this is, I mean, he is a brilliant actor, was R.I.P. But there's no way, and both of them R.I.P.
Yeah.
But there's no way to, do a scene like this, because it does, weird that Buchanan, who is a scientist from the future, is just standing by.
Yeah.
But Victor is telling his creature, pull the first lever.
Yeah.
And the creature's like, I'll do it. Then pull the second one. Okay. Pull all the levers. But I'm like, why wouldn't you have another scientist do it? Not that the creature screws up. It just doesn't make sense that you'd have the really stupid guy.
I mean, this is how all like Frankenstein monster creations kind of play out in movies, where it's like, pull this lever, then pull that lever. But I do love when it's like, oh, to hell with it, pull every lever.
Yeah.
That's a very Roger Corman mad scientist kind of thing, to be like, pull all the levers.
Yes.
Even that one.
They do.
Oh, there's another one over here. I'll pull it too. Like, it's just going like, and it does bring her back to life. And I do like where he's like, yes, it's me, it's Victor. And it's right
she
here.
is making like, oh, I kind of know who this is faces.
Yeah, but just as she comes back to life, pew 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 pew, time laser goes off, and suddenly we're all transported to a destroyed. Is it the same house? It seems like it. Maybe, I don't know. But we're in a burnt out, broken down house.
No, I think it is the same, because the laser was shot at the castle villa. So in other words, it transported all of it.
That's right. It transported
the building
all of it.
And them.
But now it's all destroyed by that process, I guess. And in this, Arctic apocalyptic wasteland.
Yeah.
And I like that they reveal each character. Where it's like John Hurt wakes up and he's like, oh, we've traveled in time. And then Raul Julia wakes up and he's like, what is this? And then the bride wakes up. She's like, what? So just like, each one, they're like, because all my notes are just like, oh, Frankenstein's here too. Oh, the creature's here too. Oh, the bride is here too.
Everybody's here.
So the creature comes over and is taking care of Elizabeth, who is kind of like, oh, someone to care for me. And then as soon as he's like, it's me, Victor, suddenly she's like, oh, this monster's disgusting. Wait a minute. It's like, wait, there's an alternative to this?
It's so strange.
It doesn't
because
play as well as, of course, I mean, very few things to play as well as Bride of Frankenstein, obviously, with the instant horror of the monster. Instead, it's more like, oh, you're okay. Wait, that man's more handsome. Fuck you.
This is the weirdest take, is that she is accepting at the very beginning. She's like, okay, we were made for each other, and this will work.
I can see this.
But then you've got Victor going, no, me, Victor.
And then she's like, oh, right, yes.
Oh, right, handsome actual person, not made of corpses. Oh, right.
Yeah, it also adds to this weird idea of, is this Elizabeth? Does she remember? I don't know. She doesn't live long enough, but she obviously recognizes enough that she's a monster, because, of course, he's going to he pulls his gun and he's going to shoot the monster now. Which, why didn't you just do that to start with, you dumb bastard?
Well, at what point was it during the... Oh, yeah. Wait. No, it's not there yet. Okay, sorry. Keep going.
Because, he aims and goes to pull the trigger, and just before he pulls the trigger, Elizabeth points the barrel at herself, and it fires, and she dies.
Yeah.
And now he's like,
that was pretty badass.
It was. In the context of the movie, once again, you want these moments to have more impact, with more setup, with more build-up. Elizabeth is barely a character before she dies, and then she's even less of a character when she's a monster. So even though this is...
because of the time we spent with Mary Shelley and so forth, it took away from any kind of depth you could bring to the Frankenstein characters. Right. So it's like, choose one or the other. Have him go back to the past and meet Mary Godwin and get with her and do all that, or have him go back to the past and be in the novel Frankenstein. But yeah, we never got to know Elizabeth. We really didn't. So the fact that she's so important here at the end is like, doesn't matter how well they film it or how well she acts it.
Let me try to fix this slightly, which is replace Mary Shelley with Elizabeth and have him kind of fall for this woman not realizing it's the fiance of Frankenstein.
Or have him certainly be aware he is in Frankenstein, still falls for her, but knows that she's fated to die because of the novel. Yes. And he wants to change the end of something that's already established, that's time travel.
Well, because then it gets back to, I must destroy Frankenstein and the monster to save Elizabeth.
To save Elizabeth, sure. You could go that way.
These are options. Instead, it's just kind of nothing, gobbledygook. And so now, distraught, the monster just picks up Frankenstein over his head. And weren't you waiting? I was waiting for to bring him down on the knee and do the Bane finisher.
No, you didn't need to do that, because you could just snap him in half
over your head. Yeah, which is what he does. But it doesn't kill him immediately. He's gonna linger for a little while here, which is pretty fun.
Yeah.
And I like that with his last breath, he goes, "Kill him!"
Yeah.
And then dies. And you're just like, man, Raul Julia, this movie has let you down, man.
It lets you down hardcore.
Yeah, it really does.
He's really not on screen very much.
No, he's really not.
And you're like, what a waste of this dude.
I mean, that was my main thing. Like, when I looked at this and when Frankenstein Unbound, he's Frankenstein, I'm like, oh, this will be good. And then to find out he's barely in it, really, even.
I think the words you actually used were "sign me up."
I think that probably does sound like me. So he dies. John Hurt picks up the pistol, and now leads to the rest of this movie. It's like a 10-minute chase, basically.
Yeah,
into John Hurt's old lab from the start of the movie.
Yeah, I don't know how that, unless does somehow the particle beam take him back? Like any time slip, does it end up close to where the particle beam is in the future?
Maybe.
But he's even in the future of his world.
Yes.
So that's even weirder. He's past his own lifetime.
Yes.
Because now he's in post-apocalyptic world, which he possibly caused.
Yeah.
This is so weird.
And it's all just to go like he goes into the bunker and he's searching around and the monster bursts through a wall at him like the Kool-Aid Man.
Yeah. But, weirdly, Buchanan's perfectly positioned because he's right next to his particle cannon.
Yep.
And he zip-zaps the Frankenstein monster.
Kapew.
And here's the problem. They are using a real laser.
Yes.
Which is very funny. I love real laser.
First he shoots his arm off, then he impales him with a pipe, then he gets to the laser.
Yeah, that's right. It's sort of, he runs a gauntlet. Yeah. So one-armed creature is zip-zapped. But the problem with it is we all know what real lasers are.
Yes.
And we also know they will not hurt you.
So
it does look like they're trying to do a Laser Floyd show on the guy's chest.
Because it's not like a sci-fi laser where it would pierce through him like a hot beam.
No, it's literally doing little patterns and stuff on his chest.
And poor Nick Brimble has to go, ah! And meanwhile,
and they're also animating some light on the creature, like it's somehow burning him from within.
Well, and they start putting burn makeup on his neck and his face, like it's burning up his body somehow.
Yeah, it's cooking him, man. It's cooking him.
Yeah, that's what I say. Laser fries monsters. What's in my head.
And the smell.
Yeah,
you gotta imagine that smelled good.
Yeah, John Hurt goes, if you maybe get a taste.
Now, I know this is an American term that only us Americans would use, but I sure could go for some barbecue right about now.
So succulent.
Yes, as only Americans enjoy it. We Americans.
The tender white meat. Yes.
By the way, did you watch the football contest? It was quite thrilling. And when I say football, I mean the one that has the pointy ends.
Tossing
because
around,
I'm American.
Tossing around the old pig skin, if you will, for the Super Bowl. The superb owl.
The superb owl.
One of the God, that's a great joke.
I am wearing my. There you go, my Jackie Daytona.
Jackie Daytona. Man, I think I've said this before. I want Matt Berry in like a Hammer-esque kind of movie parody. I would love to see that.
I would take him as. I mean, he would probably not want to do the vampire because he's created an iconic vampire.
Yeah.
But imagine him as a Van Helsing. Come on.
There's vampires about,
God damn, he'd be great.
Back, you vicious demon, that kind of thing.
But I also think Matt Berry would pretty much make anything better.
It's true. So anyway, the monster has now been fried up good, deep battered and fried. Frankenstein, or not Frankenstein.
We do need to say, and I need to state this, because our audience is probably thinking, oh yeah, this is all a contained showdown between. When the monster first showed up, even Doc Buchanan, I don't think this is his lab now that I think about it, because he does, I don't know what this place is. The creature knows. This is unbelievable. The creature, when he busts through and goes, oh yeah, and after he gives everybody Kool-Aid, then the creature says, this place is the brain of the last remaining city on Earth. The last remaining human settlement on Earth.
Some variation on his lab, though, because it has his laser that he knows how to control, right?
It's true, but he still says, I don't know what this place is. And then, did the creature get there before him somehow?
Yes.
Because the creature goes, this place is the computer brain, essentially, of the last settlement of humankind.
In the few seconds, like the 30 seconds it took Dr. Frankenstein to die and hand John Hurt a gun, this creature has gotten to the lab and learned everything about it.
Yep. And then basically insane. Buchanan goes, hey, thanks for the info. Zip, zap, zip.
Yeah, kapew, kapew, kapew.
And now he's all alone.
He goes outside, but here's the haunting voice of the creature as he steps outside and says, I do have the exact lines here. He says, you think that you have killed me, but I will be with you forever. I am Unbound.
Yes.
Frankenstein Unbound. Dun, dun, dun.
And if you don't feel a full-body chill wash over you when you hear that, you're not human. You're not alive.
And what the fuck does that mean?
No, I don't know. Well, I mean, when he was being zip-zapped, too, even though he's clearly burning, this is before the ghostly voice, but he goes, you can't kill me. Don't you get it?
Yeah.
I can't be killed. But we clearly see him cooked.
Yeah.
Then
he means it metaphorically, but also
he means that you can't kill the concept of the creature or the scientific thing that
he's got no problem talking metaphorically here, but he doesn't know what murder is.
Doesn't know what murder is, or who God maybe is.
Yeah, but here he goes, you'll never get away from the very concept of the monster you've created, And
he's like, so what is a baked Alaska? Is one of the last things he goes, I don't understand. Is it a frozen thing? Then how can it be baked?
Yeah.
And he's asking this as he's getting laser zapped.
And then they talk about that they light it on fire, and he's like, oh, don't love that.
But the ending is not just the voice. It is him walking across. We saw him already in the worst frozen cavern.
He walks to what looks like a future city of some sort.
He's walking towards the future city, which I only assume is probably Hurton, because if that's the last settlement of man, they just fucked up the brain center of the last settlement of man.
And do you think
so he walks across the cold.
Do you think he's still so cavalier when he gets to this future city and goes, well, it's the future, I do say. Let me kick in some doors and see what this is all about.
It'd be great if he's like going, look at my car. And they're like, we don't need cars. We teleport. But look at it.
Look at that car. Am I right? But here's the thing.
If you want any book, I can print it for you right there in my car. We don't read books anymore. They get zapped into our brains. Yeah. But I can print it.
Look, hard copy, baby. Give me the hard copy.
What is it? 50 Shades of Grey? Hold on, baby. Print out 50 Shades of Grey.
Yeah, come on. Hard copy for daddy.
Hard copy for daddy.
That's what I was waiting for. I was waiting for him to start referring to himself as daddy with the car. Oh, come on, baby. Start up for daddy.
This is the dream we all have. But we didn't get that.
Here's the thing with this movie, though. Once again, this movie is bad, but this movie is so silly that I did enjoy watching it and talking about it. It's not the slog. It doesn't have the self-seriousness. I mean, it does, but even the self-seriousness is goofy.
It's true. I mean, that's why this is it's not a recommend, but it's this. You know, we sometimes say weak recommend.
Yeah.
This is definitely a weak avoid.
Yeah.
Because if you're just wanting something that's kind of batshit, with good actors who are basically, I can only imagine them at the craft service table going, if it weren't for Corman, there's no way I'd be here. It's just dumb and weird.
Yeah.
And it's not a slog. It's kind of a goofy, fun time.
Like I said, I did enjoy it. And this is another one I've used this recommendation before, that this is one if you're going to get some friends together to do like a bad movie night. This is perfect for that. Also, can I point out, you're talking about not ruining a career. I just wanted to see, I thought this was true. Raul Julia also has Presumed Innocent come out this same year, which is a great movie, and he's amazing in it.
Of course he is.
So that's another thing where it's like,
this was a great year for him, except for this.
Yeah, he also had,
and maybe he had fun doing it.
He's also in Havana the same year.
Havana, yeah, man, he's knocking some shit out of the park.
He really is. Oh, and he's the bad guy in Clint Eastwood's The Rookie. So he was busy in '90.
I didn't see The Rookie.
It's okay. I mean, it's a pretty generic like cop movie, but he's having fun. Raul Julia always played a good bad guy and stuff. Well, the thing with him is there is a theatricality to everything he does, but it never goes into cartoon. All it is it feels alive. Yes.
Raul Julia always kind of electrified anything he's in because he's there.
It's actually it's what we were looking for in that Phantom of the Opera.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah. Oh, boy. Well, things aren't going to get better, I don't think, Brendan, because next week...
What?
Yes, it's true. It's been so long since we've seen a Howling movie. I think it's time we take a look at the Howling 6, The Freaks.
Okay, I'm not saying this will happen. I just want this to be... And I don't want people to think this was pre-planned, but I might end up with COVID by next week. You might be doing this one alone. Is all I'm saying.
Oh God, I just when we think we're free of them, Brendan, another one rears its ugly head. Here it is. Yeah, we're gonna see The Freaks next week.
I'm not ready, John.
Oh,
I'm not ready.
Ooh, 1 hour 42. Well, that's
wow.
long. That's long.
And it's it's the same director, man.
No, it's not. This is the weird thing.
Oh, it's not?
Remember where it's 4, 5, and 7.
Oh, right. He skips this one.
6 he skipped over. But it's the same actress. Remember, it's the same woman who's in 5, 6, and 7 playing.
And she really lit it up too when we found out that she was the werewolf all along.
God.
Holy shit, man.
Oh my God, why? Oh, Jesus. Okay. Well, Howling 6, The Freaks next week on the show.
Yes.
By the way, we're in for it for a while is what I'll say. Because until we get to Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Is Bram Stoker the first breath of fresh air we're going to have?
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, but we got to run because there's a subspecies in here as well. So,
okay.
Oh God, can we survive a howling and subspecies back to back?
Well, you're prejudging subspecies because if I'm not mistaken, you've never seen it.
I have never seen it, but I've heard tell.
No, it's not good.
No, I don't. Yeah, I'm not getting my hopes up on that. So anyway, next week it's Howling 6, The Freaks here on Campbell and Jones Meet the Monsters. But that is going to do it for this week's episode. I'm John Campbell.
I'm Brendan Jones.
And remember, there are such things as monsters!
Insert some opera here because... Oh, wait, no, we did that last week.